Recording in progress.
Time being 7:05, I call the Franklin Town Council meeting to order on April 15, 2026 at 7 p.m. Can I have a moment of silence, please? Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Note to residents. All citizens are welcome to attend public meetings in person. To view the live meeting remotely, citizens are encouraged to watch the live stream on Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel or live broadcast on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29. To listen to the meeting remotely, citizens may call in using the number 1-929-205-6099. To participate in the meeting remotely, citizens may join the Zoom webinar using the information I will let you know below. Meetings are recorded and archived by Franklin TV and Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel and shown on repeat on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29. Any participant who wishes to speak must enter their full name and address when joining the webinar. All participants will automatically be muted upon joining the webinar. In order to speak, participants will need to select the raise hand function to request to be unmuted. All speakers will be required to state their full name and street address before commenting. Chair is going to identify, we have a couple notifications. Town Council office hours are being held at 8:30 tomorrow morning at the Senior Center. Franklin's 25th Annual Earth Day cleanup is taking place on Saturday, April 18th, this Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Join the Recreation Department at 9 a.m. to pick up gloves, trash bags, and site maps before heading out to your assigned area. Thanks to all who participate. Make sure you use bug spray. Ticks are out.
I didn't think so.
Citizens' comments.
Mr. Chair,
Huh?
you need to identify Councilor Greller as participating remotely.
Oh, yeah. Councilor Greller is in Florida enjoying himself, so he will be participating remotely. Citizens' comments. Citizens are welcome to express their views for up to 3 minutes on a matter that is not on the agenda in compliance with Chapter 38, Section 20, the Open Meeting Law. The council cannot engage in a dialogue or comment on a matter raised during citizens' comments. The council may ask the town administrator to review the matter. Nothing herein shall prevent the town administrator from correcting a misstatement of fact. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to say a citizen's comment? Just please come up and state your name and your address, please.
Kim Muchow, 4 Barwood Road, Chair of the Board of Health. The Franklin Board of Health will be holding a public hearing on implementing new regulations prohibiting the manufacturing, sale, and distribution and synthetically derived cannabinoids, synthetically derived kratom, and unregulated novel intoxicating products. It is the duty of the Board of Health to promote and protect the public health of the residents of Franklin. The board derives its legal authority to enact regulations from the Massachusetts legislature. Except for Title V regulation, it is not legally required for the Board of Health to actually hold a public hearing. However, the board feels it is important to provide a public forum to collect information and opinions. The readings and final votes on the adoption of the regulations will take place during the Board of Health meeting beginning at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, May 6, 2026. There will be an opportunity for public input during the process. The location is at the Municipal Building on the third floor training room, 355 East Central Street, Franklin, and will also be available for via Google Meet. The Board of Health will add to the Code of Town of Franklin, Chapter 248, sales. The regulations are to add new language to the regulations prohibiting the manufacturing, sale, and distribution of synthetically derived cannabinoids, synthetically derived kratom, and unregulated novel intoxicating products. Residents can visit the town website, franklinma.gov, town calendar, review the agenda, including the full text of the proposed amendments, and for up-to-date meeting information on and after April 8th. The regs are already posted and our agenda is already posted. If you have any other questions, please call the Health Department at 508-520-4905 if you require further information. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in council chambers? Go ahead, Steve.
Steve Sherlock, 13 Magnolia Drive, Volunteer Community Information Director of Franklin Matters, Franklin Public Radio. Thank you, Chair. A couple of other public service announcements. In addition to the recreation piece on the 18th, PAC 92 is also doing a cleanup effort of their own, and the Ag Commission is coordinating with Fairmont Fruit Farm. Also on Saturday, the details are on franklin.news. Rise Up has an event at the Sculpture Park at 10 o'clock, also on Saturday. And roses are red, violets are blue. If you have a favorite poem, we'd love to hear from you. Saturday afternoon, the 18th, at 1:30, favorite poem reading at the library hosted by yours truly. The quick reminder as well in terms of what's going on, there is so much on a regular basis. I have trouble keeping up with it all. But the daily newsletter starts off with the calendar of all the events in town and school meetings. On the bottom of the page is the TV and radio schedules, and all the other goodness falls in between. And we do this because Franklin matters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anybody else in council chambers? Is anybody out there in Zoom land? Okay. Moving on. Councilor comments. Councilor Malloy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick things. Just wanted to thank the members of the Finance Committee, Jamie, you and your department heads, for a tough week last week. Very informative Finance Committee meetings. Watched all of them, 16, 18 hours, whatever it was. It's easier to watch on tape than it is to do it live. So highly recommend everybody at home, if you haven't seen all or some of those meetings, they're definitely worth your time. You learn a lot about the budget process, how it works, and hats off to the Finance Committee. I think they did a great job answering questions or asking questions and getting some good information together. I'd also put in a plug for Memorial Day. I think it's 5 weeks from Monday. And the Veteran Services team is hard at work putting together a program, as they always do, for Memorial Day celebrations. My respectful ask of the community is, if you have not attended the Memorial Day ceremony after the parade on the Commons, where there's a great commemoration of the veterans from Franklin who perished in our battles over the many, many years. It's very powerful, very moving. It's one of my favorite days in Franklin for that event. It's really, really special, so I highly recommend it. And if I can be so bold as to say, great opportunity for children to learn a little firsthand information about our country and the heroes that made us. So, other than that, that's it, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Moore. Councilor Juco?
I just, I wanted to just double down on thanking the Finance Committee for their efforts last week. I was impressed with both the fact that it was such a rigorous and detailed review of budget items from all of the town departments. As was mentioned, the Finance Committee asked a lot of very good questions and got very good answers. 16 hours is a lot, 18 hours is a lot. If you haven't seen all of it, I understand. At least take a look at the last day to get the summary for, how detailed they were and the approach that they've taken to helping determine what next year's budget's going to look like in terms of at least developing the recommendation. I want to point out the fact that there was a very focused and generally respectful discussion on critical elements of our current town budget. So it was very much appreciated, for what we were able to get out of it. Now, that said, I think the one to watch is the last one. It is 4 hours, so watching it on YouTube at 1.5 is only bad if you can't watch it on YouTube at 2x. So, yeah. So I think we're heading into into an environment where we need to figure out what our finances are going to look like over the next year. We also need to be making a plan for what it's going to look like over the long term. So I will also put in a plug for the joint budget subcommittee meetings, which kick off tomorrow, where we're going to be starting to discuss how we make the plan for our long term. That's all.
All right, well, I don't like to go third because all of the things I was going to say just got said.
Try going last.
Yeah. But just to reiterate, I want to thank our volunteers on the Finance Committee. Just as a reminder, these are people who are volunteering their time to meet once a month and then for so many hours last week as well. And also I want to thank our town departments and our school department and the department heads for having their budgets so buttoned up, and they knew exactly, the answers to all these questions. They knew their stuff inside and out, and I loved being able to see the conversations that came out of those meetings. And then I was also going to remind everyone about the JBSC meeting tomorrow. I think it's going to be a really good opportunity to see, where we're going. Hopefully, what our plan will be as we talk about. Every time we talk about, we need to have a strategic plan moving forward. I think this is going to be an opportunity to see what comes out of the Finance Committee, the School Committee, and the Town Council and the members on the JBSC. So I'm looking forward to tuning into that as well. That's all I have.
Councilor LeBlanc?
I took a lot of time last time, so I'm not going to take a lot of time this time, other than just to reiterate, appreciate the time and effort that was put in last week by the committee, but also by the town staff. They worked long days and they were here very late, so always appreciate their time that they put in. So,
Councilor Warren John?
You got it right.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to thank the Board of Health for being proactive in protecting our community. I think that's good stuff that you're doing on the Board of Health. Second, I'd like to acknowledge Town Administrator Helen, who went to bat for Franklin municipalities across the Commonwealth on WBUR's Morning Edition, highlighting the real fiscal pressures facing our cities and towns. I'd also like to mention the Franklin Conservation Commission is hosting Earth Day. They're doing a celebration this Saturday, April 18th. I think it's at the Fairmount Fruit Farm, and I hope residents will come out and show their support for that. On Saturday, April 25th, the Franklin Downtown Partnership is hosting the 4th annual Ladybug Trail Spring Walk, running all day starting from 9 a.m. With a rain date of April 26th. It's self-guided, and you search for all the giant fiberglass ladybug sculptures around the town. There's trail maps available at the Franklin Historical Museum, the Public Library, and Farmers Market. I also want to highlight the MBTA is soliciting public comment and hosting listening sessions for its Focus 2050 strategic plan. If you have an issue regarding the MBTA service, it's a good way to make your voice heard. I'm working with the town administrator, relevant stakeholders to see if we could bring a listening session here to Franklin and to develop our own ask as a town. In the meantime, residents can submit comment directly. Just Google Focus 2050. Also, the MBTA is also soliciting public comments for their capital plan, which is a shorter term, and the deadline for public comment for the capital plan is this Friday. So if you want infrastructure improvements to the T, now's, put your comment in. And then finally, on a positive note from Beacon Hill, the House Ways and Means Committee has proposed raising the minimum per pupil Chapter 70 aid to $160, which is a dramatic increase from the governor's recommended floor of just $30. This will directly benefit Franklin schools, and I want to recognize the advocacy of Town Administrator Helen, Representative Roy, the school committee, and my fellow counselors in pushing for this. Thank you.
Thanks, Max. Councilor Callaway-Tripp?
Okay, not too much. First, I have not gotten to watch all of the finance meetings. I have gotten to watch one. I've been down medically for the last month, so we're playing a lot of catch-up. I just want to say if there's anybody that has sent out emails to me, I pretty much tried to keep up on all the emails that were sent. But if you did not get a response, please just send me another email, because I honestly think I got to everybody, but in case I forgot anyone, I didn't want anyone to think they're being ignored. I was literally down and out for the last month, so this week is all about playing catch-up. Other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly want to echo everybody's comments about the Finance Committee meetings. Thank you. That was quite a bit for them to undertake last week, and it was great to hear all of the feedback that they got. We certainly have some challenging budget discussions ahead, but I'm encouraged that they're going to be thoughtful and civil, which is always the goal. Thank you, Councilor Malloy, for bringing up Memorial Day. It's always a beautiful tribute when we are able to gather on the Common after the parade and take a few moments for those fallen veterans. I would definitely encourage everyone to attend and to learn a little bit more about that. I'll share a very quick, funny story for those of you who don't follow me on Facebook. This is a kudos to our friends at the Franklin Fire Department who are going to be talking tonight. It just so happens that last night I got that panic call at around 8 o'clock from my 15-year-old who's fishing over at Choate Pond in Medway. Dad, I've got a hook through my thumb. What do I do? And I don't think my response was maybe as kind as it should have been, but I said, okay, don't panic, I'm on my way. Got there, assessed the situation, urgent care is closed, it's in pretty deep, had absolutely no idea what to do. Like, do I drive the kid to the hospital? Do I try to do this myself? I said, nope, I'm gonna call the experts. I called 911, and they said, stay put, we're on our way. And they couldn't have been kinder and more professional, being able to handle what I was, as a parent, sort of in a crisis mode, and it wasn't like this huge deal, but I'm like, my kid's in pain, right? And I, not knowing what to do and how to help him. And the paramedics showed up, the truck showed up, and they just took over. And they knew Jaden has some special needs, so they knew that kind of how to handle that with some humor, and were able to tell jokes with him and de-escalate things, and before he even knew it, they had worked that sucker out of that thumb without him screaming at all, and just sort of bandaged it up and on his way. And he lived to tell a fun story about being in the ambulance and being in the truck. And did everybody see the pictures of the fish that he got over at Choate that he had to send back? And I think one of the paramedics even made a comment of like, well, you're 15, you should be catching, young ladies' phone numbers instead of fish, something like that, which I just sort of like smiled and said, boy, you know him better than anybody. But thank you to that whole team. We are so incredibly lucky, Chuck and your whole staff, from not just as a counselor, but as a parent. And I'm sure that stuff happens every day, and it never gets talked about, and it never gets put on Facebook, and your guys never get thanked. So I just wanted to be sure to let you know that meant a lot to me. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Like I said, it's tough to go last, but...
We got Councilor Grella, too.
Oh, yeah, Councilor
Just forgetting about me, aren't you?
I keep forgetting.
Mr. Palm
He told me he wasn't gonna come in, he was gonna do the...
Yeah.
But, all right, Councilor Grella, go ahead, council comments.
Greetings from the sunny state of Florida, where the weather's been beautiful, and I really needed that. with all the cold weather. And I guess it's going to be cold next week when I come back. So I want to just echo the comments of the other counselors who's thanked the Finance Committee, town departments for doing the work on the budgets. Excellent work. Looking forward to the joint budget subcommittee, and that starts tomorrow night. I'll do that also remotely. And then I just wanted to just, again, as Steve had said, Councilor Malloy had said that, folks should attend Memorial Day. This will actually be my first Franklin Memorial Day. Right around the time that I moved to Franklin, just the same time, I joined a reenactment group, and I've been attending the Memorial Day services in Braintree and Randolph for the last 25, 26 years. But this year I won't go to Randolph. I will go to Franklin instead. I'll attend our own. But I think that wherever you go, it's definitely an honor to go to these events and just recognize those that we've lost in the service of protecting our country. And that's it for me. And you can go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, so just echo the Finance Committee. I went to one meeting, and we have long meetings, but we don't have 4 in a row long meetings. That's a long time, so. And the department heads are there, so, they don't, I don't think they get paid any extra for that, so we thank you for that and for all your hard work. And, they had a lot of different opinions, which I liked. Some people on this side were one way, these people on the other. It wasn't just okay, we'll do that and throw it away, which is, I think at this time, I think that's what we need. So that's all I have. So we're gonna go to subcommittees, joint budget subcommittees meeting tomorrow night. EDC met the other night, right?
Yeah,
Mike?
we met about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
The 4 of us kind of went around. We reviewed, obviously, what was in the master plan, but we also added some other ideas to it. Certainly, we'll set up for a number of meetings going forward to bring folks from the outside. I think one of the things that we did discuss and we're moving forward with is I had reached out to the University of Massachusetts in Boston. They have an urban planning department there, and I'd reached out to the department chair to see if they would be interested in working on developing a vision for Franklin's downtown. Connected the professor that is teaching that class in the fall with Jamie. He'll be coming in a couple meetings or so.
May 14th.
May 14th,
Yep.
coming in May 14th to present what the class will do, but for nothing.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It will cost us nothing. It's a graduate level class, so these are graduate level students. They will basically, for free, propose a plan for a vision for downtown.
Okay.
Not to say that we haven't had visions, but it will, I think, it'll be an updated vision. So I think it was a cool way to save some money and actually get something out of it. So we'll see how that conversation goes. And there are a number of other conversations I believe before the end of summer, we'll get rocking and rolling, so.
Oh, that's great. And plus it gives students a good chance to do
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
So that's great.
Very engaged.
Communications?
Yeah, we had originally planned a meeting for last week, but we had some technical difficulties in getting the agenda posted on time, so we scrapped that, and we are rescheduling for, I think, the week of April 27th, so hopefully that agenda will go up as soon as we have that booked. But so we're looking forward to having that first meeting shortly.
Okay. Town charter ad hoc, we haven't done anything yet. We're gonna get rolling on that. And the police station, they have nothing, right?
Just got to coordinate a lot of folks to come in.
Yeah.
It'll just take a little
We're
while.
gonna try to take that. So, all right, town administrators report.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the council and the folks watching at home, couple notes, just want to follow up. I think on Monday next week, the letter to the Bellingham Zoning Board of Appeals will go out. Everyone's come in and signing it. I think there's one left. And then they did continue the last hearing, so the hearing hasn't closed in Bellingham yet. But just for folks out there who have commented and sent emails to the counselors or the staff, we've compiled all of those thoughts. We got a little bit of assist from Councilor Griffith on writing the letter and just adding in a little bit more substance into what the comments were. We're going to package that all up and send it over to Bellingham to the ZBA, just so that everybody's voices in Franklin can get heard at one of their meetings over there. Second, I double down on what everybody says. 17 and a half hours last week. The Finance Committee did an amazing job. And I just want to compliment them on their consensus building at the end. I think they showed the community an incredible example of, there was like 50 or 60, whatever it was, 40 or 50 areas that individual members of the committee had identified to question or to talk about. But as they whittled it down through Ryan's process, they were able to come to a group consensus. And not everybody got their way, not everybody got everything they wanted, but I think they showed the community an excellent example of what it's like to try to come to some sort of consensus. And their recommendation was unanimous, which speaks volumes because several members had either wanted things one way or another way. But I agree with Councilor Juku, if they watch that fourth meeting, it kind of wraps it up, and I think it shows what can happen when people have an opportunity to speak and bring out their comments, and then also collaborate among the committee members themselves. I thought it was a really great job that they did to come to a consensus. We are working on, the finance staff is working on a formal letter just to kind of encapsulate all of the recommendations, because there were some things that were off budget regarding a few fees, as well as some of the free cash recommendations. So Kerry and Evan are working with them, and that won't be ready for tomorrow night's joint budget meeting, but it'll certainly be ready in public when it's ready in the next couple weeks, and then that'll be ready for the council meetings. To my next point, just a cheap plug, May 13th is a town council meeting where our annual audit will be presented, our annual OPEB actuarial will be presented, and we anticipate at least a preliminary discussion with the council on the budget that's been filed, just to see if there's any questions or comments that people want on the process, because the legal two public hearings will be on May 20th and 21st. We're in the middle of open enrollment right now, so we're halfway. We're not through it yet, so we got a couple more weeks, and we do anticipate it will be a close call for the council meetings. I think it's going to be a very close call to see. We hopefully will have healthcare numbers. I don't know if we'll have all the documents ready to go, which is why we recommended this year to make the final vote on the budget on June 10th at a council meeting, to give everybody some time and space to catch up to what the adjustments are in the budget, just so that we're very clear, very transparent, and that people can have time to ask questions. Also the Finance Committee meeting will be meeting on May 27th and June 3rd, and they will review the revised budget at that time based on the healthcare numbers and to what we see. So I think many councilor comments before, if anybody out there watching or listening is interested in the town budget, and you weren't checked in yet, now's the time to get engaged. Now's the time to pay attention. Come to the joint budget meeting tomorrow night, and then over the next 2 months, it'll pretty much be all budget all the time until the middle of June. So, and then one other quick update I just wanted to provide to the community. I just wanted to make sure that the accurate information got out there, and I know, there's been a few inquiries at my office. I just want to make it very clear, the Best Western Hotel is open. And it has been open for a long time. The town is collecting hotel tax, and just for people that don't know, hotel tax is actually collected by the state, and then they redistribute it to the cities and towns. So the hotel tax is being collected. I also just want to be clear, there are no outstanding permits. There is no outstanding inspections. The hotel is in full compliance with all inspections. The hotel is in full compliance. They've passed their inspections with fire and building and the building commissioner. They are actually, I just called them yesterday. I did call them a few months ago too, and I might have mentioned it in another meeting, but I do recognize that online, if you go to hotels.com, it says that they're closed, so it can be confusing. But I just clicked on the number that was on Google, And somebody extraordinarily polite just picked up the phone and said, you know, Best Western Extended Stays, how can I help you? And so we got into a conversation about it, and I just know that there's been a little misinformation in the Franklin Observer article yesterday. And I also want to mention, and I did contact Alan, just so everybody's clear, the town has been incredibly responsive to his inquiries. I know that there may have been a gap here or there, and I know the building commissioner had called him a couple times, and maybe they just weren't able to get in touch. But we've been responsive, I've been responsive, the staff has been responsive, and none of the information that was in that article relative to the town denying records is true. We have provided everything to him. I did inquire with him yesterday to find out if there was, for some reason, somebody not being forthright, because any building permit application is public record. Any building permit or license inspection is all public record, so he should have received those. And I just wanted to make sure, because I did get a bunch of emails, I did get a few phone calls. They are planning to be open for the World Cup. They did go through a management transition last year, so the new manager is on site. And I just wanted to make sure I cleared up any confusion while I had a few minutes here during TA report. The Best Western is open. It's not the same hotel that it's going to be as it was before, because they're transitioning to a new model of month-long stays. So they're doing month-long, 2-month, 3-month, or even longer stays. So they're transitioning their business model a little bit. And I think that's the reason why it's not available right online on Expedia or any of the other sites that people go to. But the person who answered the phone, after I identified myself, she's like, "Are you looking for an extended stay?" So I was declined that offer. But I just wanted to make sure everybody in the council, everybody in the community, that we're just putting another kind of anchor in the sand and saying, you know, the hotel is open. We are getting hotel tax. There are no outstanding permits. There are no outstanding permits, there are no outstanding inspections, and we have been very forthright with anybody who's asked for any of that. And by the way, no one has asked for that, and according to the staff, nobody's asked for a public records request on any of those files over there. So I just wanted to make sure the record was corrected, and I have reached out to Alan to try to do that as well. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And you're all set?
Yep.
Thank you, Jamie. Next item is a proclamation of recognitions. Proclamation, Sons and Daughters of Italian in America, Quattro Aero Lodge 1414. Considering I'm a member, I think I should read this one. You know? I was telling everyone that I went down to my brother's house because that's where all my father's stuff is, and it was in either the late 20s or the early 30s that my father won a relay race, I believe, for the Sons of Italy in Franklin, and he had a medal, and it was on a ribbon, an Italian ribbon with a medal, and I was going to bring it tonight, but unfortunately I can't find it. So, but he was proud of that. So this is a proclamation and recognition of Quattro Aero Lodge 1414 on the occasion of its 100th anniversary. Whereas the Order of Sons and Daughters of Italian Americans is the largest and oldest national organization for men and women of Italian heritage in the United States. And whereas the Quattro Aero Lodge 1414 is the Franklin-based chapter of the Order of Sons and Daughters of Italian in America. And whereas Quattro Aero Lodge was founded in 1926 as a mutual aid society assisting Italian immigrants adjusting to life in America. And whereas the lodge was named after 4 Italians from Franklin who fought and died in World War I for the United States military. You know who they are, Gino? Just, I know one's a Maccheroni and one's a
Alfred Maccheroni,
yeah,
Alessandro Patetti, Patrick Ristino,
yeah.
and Emilio D'Addario.
Thank you. Whereas the lodge continues the mission of honoring and preserving Italian-American heritage and tradition, and whereas the lodge continues to support annual scholarships and several charities, And whereas Quattro Aero Lodge is celebrating its 100th anniversary in 2026. Now therefore be it known, the Town Council of the Town of Franklin hereby offers its sincere congratulations to Quattro Aero Lodge for serving the community for 100 years by providing support to immigrants and continue to promote Italian-American culture and traditions. And it's signed by myself, Chairman of the Franklin Town Council, and one of your members. So, congratulations.
On behalf of the lodge, I'd like to express our sincere appreciation for Town Council for providing this proclamation. And I just want to note that we had 3 events celebrating this anniversary. Sunday, we had author and historian Stephen Pulio speak at the Historical Museum. We also have an ongoing exhibit still going on with items and artifacts from our 100 years of history. It's at the museum now and will be for another few weeks. It's open Thursday nights from 5 to 8, Saturdays from 10 to 1, and Sundays from 1 to 4. Also, we're concluding our celebration with a pasta dinner at the VFW Hall on May 16th, which is a great deal for a dinner, even if you're not interested in the celebrations. But also, with me here tonight representing the lodge are Pandora Carlucci, Al Pizzi, Dora Brett, Michael Narducci, and Mr. Vaca. Rob Vaca, of course. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Gino. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I will attend a motion for the minutes of March 18, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
I have some, just brief corrections. There's on page 4, it says 7.6 million with regards to, I think, aid. It should read billion rather than million. And on the bottom of page 8, there's this guy, Councilor Mario, it should read Councilor Marangello. So just correct that. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Good pronunciation.
So we can use those corrections?
Yeah.
Do we have to?
Yeah,
They'll be made.
yeah,
They will be made.
of course they'll be.
So I intend well, we have to do a roll call.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Just make it, move to approve as
As
amended.
amended. As amended, yeah.
Someone's going, I'll second it, just.
Okay, we need the-
So I can make the motion to approve minutes as amended?
As amended.
Just give me 1 second. Okay, Mr. Chairman, this will be a roll call for the March 18th, 2026 minutes as amended. Councilor Rajuku.
Yes.
Councilor Morangello.
Yes.
Councilor Malloy.
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Abstain.
Councilor Griffith.
Yes.
Councilor Callaway Tripp.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Vice Chair.
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes. Motion passed. Okay, I'll attain a motion to approve minutes of April 1st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Questions, answers, deletions, anything? Clerk will take roll call.
That's the April 1st minutes, right? Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call to approve the minutes from April 1st, 2026. Counselor Ojukwu?
Yes.
Counselor Morangello?
Yes.
Counselor Malloy?
Yes.
Counselor LeBlanc?
Yes.
Counselor Griffith?
Yes.
Counselor Callaway Tripp?
Abstain.
Myself, yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes. Motion passed. We have no appointments, no public hearings, no licensed transactions. We do have presentations tonight. So the first one is National Grid. So you guys are up and about, so could you please just identify yourself?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the council. My name is Robert Moran. I'm a Principal Community Engagement Manager with National Grid, been in the role about 9 years, and I've been lucky to serve Franklin for the last 4. Have a good relationship with the Town Hall and the Fire and Police, and with me is Ted Lombardi. He is our Distribution Planning Engineer, Principal Planning Engineer for the area. We've been asked to address reliability and in the interest of moving quickly and maybe leaving time for questions, we'll just have Ted get right into it. But I do invite you, if there are follow-up questions, to follow up with me. Jamie has my contact info, and I can certainly leave cards.
So again, my name is Ted Lombardi. I'm the Area Distribution Planning Engineer for National Grid. I cover the town of Franklin. We serve about 14,000 customers in the town, which has 3 substations, 16 feeders serving all those customers. About 309 distribution feeder miles, of which 187 are overhead miles, 123 are underground miles, and almost 9,000 poles and structures in the town that we have to maintain. So that just highlights the scale of the assets that we are responsible for in just this town alone. So what is an outage? So Mass DPU identifies an outage as a loss of electric service for over 1 minute. So anything under 1 minute is just considered a blip and is not held against us. So what are the most common causes of outages in Franklin? Most of them are animals and tree related. The 2 biggest squares in the pie chart there, followed by failed equipment. Company activities, we have planned work, maintenance work, emergency repairs. Sometimes it's unsafe for the crews to make repairs with the lines energized, so we might need to take an outage to complete the work. What do we do to improve reliability? Vegetation management is one of the biggest things. National Grid uses multiple vegetation strategies to reduce outages. Maintenance pruning is typically done in a 5-year cycle. It has delivered measurable reductions in tree-related events, customer interruptions, and overall outage durations. In Franklin alone, we've pruned 93 miles of lines over the last 2 years, and we have another 78 miles planned for over the next 2 years. We also have enhanced hazard tree mitigation program, EHTM. So we're proactively removing diseased or high-risk trees. Think about emerald ash borer damaged trees. We're taking a proactive approach to go out and remove these trees before they fall on lines, cause damage, outages, things like that. So we've removed 563 hazard trees in Franklin over the last 3 years as part of that program. The last program we have is called the Enhanced Vegetation Management Program. Basically, that's a storm resiliency program offering the largest reliability gains. It's not been deployed in Franklin yet, but we're looking at potential places where we could roll that out. So what do we do to improve reliability continued? So network improvement. So FLISR is a newer term. FLISR stands for Fault Location, Isolation, and Service Restoration. So what FLISR is basically a self-healing network. we have sensors and equipment on the lines that can analyze when a fault occurs and make switching steps to isolate the fault to the smallest location and then restore sections of the feeder back from adjacent feeders that were unaffected. So we're typically working in 500 customer pockets is our number for that. So typically in an outage where a feeder may have between 2,000 and 3,000 customers on it, we are able to typically isolate that down to only 500 customers affected. That is, so FLIZR is a relatively new program for National Grid. We've had 2 FLIZR schemes working in Franklin for the past few years, and we have about 30% of the customers in town covered under these schemes. The remaining customers served on overhead feeders will be completed and under FLIZR in the next 2 years. We also have what's called the cutout mounted recloser program. So this cutout mounted reclosers are used in place of line fuses. A line fuse would typically give you, just like the breaker in your home, it would trip on a fault. Cutout mounted recloser gives the fault an opportunity to clear itself, which means it will open the circuit, let the fault clear, and then close back in. If the fault is cleared, it will stay in. If the fault is not cleared, it will kick out again, and we'll have a sustained outage. 90-some-odd% of all outages are temporary in nature, being bird or tree, squirrel, trees, things like that, and they typically clear themselves in the first operation. So we have about 22 of these CMRs in service in Franklin. We've got another 6 planned within the next year. So this is something that's we're working on, and then we've recently kicked off a larger program that are going to be installing hundreds more of these over the next few years. We have what's called our underground replacement program. So we look at underground cables in both commercial settings and in underground developments. We're getting to the point now where cables that we installed in the late 80s are starting to fail more often. And we're keeping track of those and have these programs going on now to either inject these cables with fluid to seal them up from the inside, or we'll just straight out replace them depending on the age and the condition of the cable. So that is a program that we're continuously doing, and we've had 2 of these URD projects in Franklin over the last couple of years that have been completed. We have various resiliency programs, cross-arm replacements, cable replacement programs, and then a number of other capital projects and programs going on to improve reliability. So for preventative programs, we have what's called engineering reliability reviews. So we identify opportunities to improve reliability, focusing on decreasing the duration and frequency of outages. We typically look at the bottom 5% worst performing feeders every year, and we focus on what we can do to improve the reliability on those feeders. So last year, 2025, we had one of our feeders, the 344W2 in Franklin. We replaced 2 switch gears and hundreds of feet of cable in Forge Park, and that had a complete turnaround in reliability for 2025. 2026, we had a few more that came onto the list that we're working on currently, and those are going to see some technology installations, FLIZR, as I spoke about earlier, and some cable replacements to improve the reliability on those feeders as well. Additionally, we have what we call SEMI, which is customers experience multiple interruptions. So we focus on customers experience the most interruptions in the last 5 years, and we do targeted improvements ranging from technology and then, spot tree trimming to help mitigate any outages or further outages. So that's another program we have going on. We do infrared scans, both from the ground and aerial, sub-transmission circuits are flown, helicopter inspections. We have substation visual and operational inspections, and we have an I&M program where we go out and look at every pole that we own on a 10-year cycle. So every pole is walked, inspected from top to bottom. Any safety issues, reliability issues are noted, taken back, work requests are written up, and the work is completed to replace anything that's damaged or anything that's that looks a little like it could cause a potential future problem. That was it. What I had. I'll be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Go ahead, Mike.
With regards to reliability, is there an ability, or do you have a reliability map specifically of the neighborhoods in Franklin? For example, if you live in this section of town, last year we had lost power 2 hours during the year, and this section of town didn't lose any power. And the reason why I say that, selfishly, when I lived on the north side of town,
Yeah.
I felt like if the wind blew in the wrong direction, I lost power. So when I built my new house on the south side of town, I put a generator in, that thing I haven't lost power ever. I wasted $15,000 on a generator.
That's always the way.
It could be because I bought the generator.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you all have, if you do have a reliability, like I could go online and look at that neighborhood, they lose
Yeah.
power 10 hours a year, and that one doesn't lose power, so I can do some future planning. I
Not
guess.
yet. If it's something specific you want me to look at, I can definitely do that for you.
Okay.
Get back to you.
Yeah, it was just more for the public out there to know, am I moving into a neighborhood that I really should be planning generators and stuff like that more than anything,
No,
so.
I'd like to think our reliability has gotten a lot better over the last few years with all the improvements we've made between tree trimming and the reclosers and the flizzer installations. I'm hoping, and it's just going to continue to get better.
Thank you.
Just go right down the line.
Thank you so much for coming out to Franklin, it means a lot. I want to know how much money has National Grid invested statewide in vegetation management and other distribution improvements compared to past fiscal years? And I don't need the exact number, I just want to know in inflation-adjusted terms, has it increased, decreased, or remained the same?
It's definitely increased.
Okay, good.
Yes.
And in terms of the improving reliability in Franklin specifically, in inflation-adjusted terms, has it increased, decreased, or remained the same?
It's definitely increased.
Okay. What has National Grid done to prevent cyber attacks? I know that's a big critical infrastructure thing. And has funding for cyber attacks increased, decreased, remained the same?
That is, I don't want to say it's relatively new, but it is something that we are very aware of and have a whole group that just focuses on that. We have, we cover, I don't know how many towns in the state, lots of transmission assets. It's a big deal. So I know they take it very, very seriously.
Do you feel like we're ready for any?
I believe so. That's not my forte,
Okay.
but I'd like to hope so, yes, sir.
And you talked a little bit about what we're doing to maintain capacity, but a lot of people are pushing EVs. Are we actually looking to increase capacity too, or is it just looking at, keeping what we have?
No, we are looking at potential new, either expanding one of our substations in town here or building a new substation.
Okay.
So we're already, we're not maxing that out, but, it's on the horizon.
And finally, my last question is, in terms of the regulatory structure, I know the state has oversight as to how much you could profit over a certain amount of time. Do you feel like the regulatory structure in Massachusetts is set up to reward long-term reliability and investment, or do you think that it trends to be more short-term?
That's a question that might be outside of our ability to answer
Okay.
that. But
Okay.
in general, I think it's fair to say that we are moving into a regulatory environment where we are interested in, and customers are also interested in, investing in the capacity because we know the load is coming. We know EVs, we know heat pumps. The general move to decarbonization and electrification means there will be a lot higher demands on the electric system. So we are making every attempt to be proactive with that, including attempts at regulatory interaction on that topic, yeah.
Do you feel like that the long-term, if you, incentives are there to look at the, is National Grid still going to be a good steward 60 years from now, or is it?
Ted or I
you're just looking
probably
at the
won't see
next
that,
year?
but I think so, yeah,
Okay,
I do.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm going to piggyback off of Councilor LeBlanc, because I live on the other side of town. And beautiful sunny day, power goes out, National Grid, why are we having, a squirrel must have ran across the line. Okay. This is a problem. So I guess what I want to know is some of this stuff that you've done and the substations that you said have been updated, are those substations the ones that factor in that side of town on the Bellingham and Medway line? Or it's because we were getting to the point, snowstorms, hurricanes, I have no problem if the power goes out, I expect it. Car hits a tree goes on the line, I expect it. A squirrel running across the line, I don't expect that to be able to take out an entire grid unless they actually shoot it. And then it will be dead, so it wouldn't be an issue. So I guess I want to know if where these infrastructures are being fixed and uplifted, or however you want to put it, is that focusing on that end of town? Because that's the end of town that has the biggest problem.
We look at all the feeders in the entirety of the town for ways to improve reliability regardless. So it doesn't matter if one side of town is better than the other. If your side of town is having a problem, we'll focus on upgrading the lines or tree trimming or whatever we need to do to fix the issues. But I don't feel that, I don't, everything we're doing is across the board, so it's not just focused on.
No, and I understand that. What I'm saying is the ones that have already been done, that you said,
Yeah.
were those the ones that are supposed to be giving the electricity to that side of town? Or,
I
I'm
think-
just trying to see where we are in the spectrum of being corrected.
Yeah, it's definitely a work in progress and something we continuous improvement that we're looking to do. So I don't know specifically your area or town that you're speaking of, so I'm not entirely sure if I can answer that.
The last time National Grid was here, I believe they said that it was over, I want to say up on Grove Street or something, over there is the one that affects that area of town. Is that right?
One of the issues, you're right, it was in 2019, I think they were last here, and there was a big delivery issue on Grove Street, and I know that they did do a sizable amount of improvements. In fact, I think on that line too, you did put in some of those squirrel preventers, there are, and I'm not kidding, I know it sounds
Oh, I
funny.
believe you.
There are capping mechanisms they put over areas because.
Wildlife guards, we call them, yeah.
What are they called?
Wildlife guards?
There you go.
Yeah.
Squirrels are legit. They may die, but squirrels do knock out power a lot. And I know that sounds crazy. I know there'll be memes about this tomorrow on Facebook or something, but it's legit. And I just wanted them to make a plug for those, what do you call them again?
Wildlife guards.
Wildlife guards.
But the equipment that
But
we're
she lives on, by the way, she lives on Maple Street. So I don't know if that helps you, Well, everybody knows when Jane was commenting at Citizen Comments, we all know it's 607 Maple Street, but they weren't here for that. So you might want to add your address in just, but Maple Street's a very woody scenic road, right? So I don't know if there's anything you can, on Maple Street.
And there is a reality in some corners of a community when it borders another utility on the other side. And the reality is, we don't have a circuit coming from the other direction that we can connect and isolate to. So, it may be that you're in a triangle that's difficult to establish a redundant loop like we would in the center of a town, for example. So that's just a reality of, some locations. And I know, you border Eversource on the Medway side.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're, that area of town where you border the Medway and the Bellingham.
Yep.
So you got Beach, all the offsets of B Street, part of Pond Street, Partridge Street. They are forever losing power
And I know
up
there
Maple
was,
Street.
I know there was an outage that affected the school.
Yes.
And there is no way to backfeed around that. So everybody beyond, I think was it a carpool accident that happened right there?
Yes.
Yeah, so everybody beyond that was out for the duration. And there's, because of the position, or because of that location, there's just no way to backfeed around it like we would typically do in the center of town.
But the equipment that I spoke about that we're installing and we've installed and planning to install will help shorten those outages and maybe prevent them.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Malloy.
I think my questions were kind of focused on what's already been discussed, but as Councilor LeBlanc had mentioned, I know you don't have a map of outages across Franklin, but do you have a map of areas that are most prone, or historically most prone? Not every area, but, I mean, do you know what the hot spots are?
I could definitely put something together. It's not something I have that I can access right this moment.
It might be worth looking at just for further conversations in terms of where to focus with real data instead of anecdotes in terms of what's out most and so forth. But if we had that information, I think that'd be helpful. And I'm guessing we're not allowed to talk about cost, right? Rates? Okay.
Also not my forte.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
That was my question.
I actually don't have anything to add. I think the heat map that they've discussed is will be helpful. That's about it.
I have a question that's more, I think I already know the answer, but just for kind of the edification of anyone listening. So I am not a native Massachusetts, and where I've lived before, there's always been underground power lines. So it sounds like a lot of the things that we've been talking about that affect our power reliability is due to them being above ground, right? Trees, accidents, animals.
Wildlife.
So I realize that there are not a lot of underground power lines in the state, and I was just wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about like why that is and why that's not something that we are doing here in Franklin.
Simple answer, it's cost.
Yep, I had a feeling that was the answer.
You knew that.
I knew the answer. I feel like I wanted, I moved here and I was like, why are there power lines, especially someplace where you have terrible snowstorms? And anyway, so I wanted to kind of just bring that.
There is a challenge with underground that doesn't exist with overhead. In an outage, it takes a lot longer to repair. So, I mean, you may have a manhole that you have to pump out, and then you have to inspect it for OSHA. It's a confined space, there's gases that we're testing for to get in it and determine, okay, the fault's not in this manhole, now we have to go to the next one. So what you can see with an overhead line, you can see an open cutout or a broken line or a tree branch. In underground, you can't see that. It takes a lot more exploration, a lot more time, and the equipment, the original installation is probably 3 to 10 times more expensive to begin with. So it's longer outages, less frequent perhaps, but longer outages and significantly more cost up front.
All right, thank you. And I also just wanted to say, so first of all, thank you for being here and sharing this information with us, but I also wanted to mention, I also live on the same side of town, not far from Maple Street. But I will say when about 6 years ago, we had, I don't even know, probably a dozen power outages in one summer on our side. And then a couple years ago, I brought home a medically vulnerable newborn from the NICU. And we put in a generator. And so you all can thank me for not having as many power outages now as we did back then.
Works.
But I will say I have noticed a difference in, in the last 6 years the number of outages that we've had and the length of those outages as well. So I wanted to say you guys are doing something right. Hopefully, we continue to move in that direction.
Well, we
but we're
appreciate the
grateful for
support
that.
of the council when we come before the council for petitions as well.
Yep.
You know, when we come to ask for new equipment, there's always a customer behind it or a reliability improvement behind it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then we're gonna go to Gene.
All right. Thank you for being here tonight, guys. So you know why you're out here on a Wednesday night, it's because of me, right? Because I voiced this and was pretty angry at being a semi, customer experiencing multiple interruptions, right? And I am, the common denominator is that side of town. I live not far from her and not far from her. And that area of town, please use every acronym and thing you have up there. It was like listening to a Department of Ed presentation.
Yeah.
Like you've got more acronyms than they do. But whatever you can do to help the Franklin residents that are living on the north side of town, whether they border Bellingham or border Medway, we're all paying the same rates, right? So, and rates they're skyrocketing and they're outrageous, and you guys know that, you hear that all the time, right? So we get the complaints, right? We get the folks that are like, I'm paying these outrageous rates and my power's out again, or it's out for 10 hours, it's out for 12 hours, and it might be out for something silly like the squirrel she's mentioning, but it could have been out. We had a relatively low snowstorm at one point that affected Franklin, Rentham, Foxborough, like it was this whole thing, and we were all looking outside and we're like, this isn't even a giant northeaster, this is pretty low. So whatever you can do to just invest, work with us, let us know what you need, right? But for us to be able to go back to folks, you have to understand too, that side of Franklin tends to be a little bit older, right? They're older, clustered, more established neighborhoods. They're not a lot of the newer developments that have gone in town. Some of those houses are 50, 60 plus years old, right? So I would imagine the infrastructure tends to be established when those homes were built, which makes them older too, right? So whatever you can do, squirrels aside and all kidding aside, to just be able to let us go back to the constituents and say that we heard you and that we're working with you guys would be very much appreciated. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gene?
Yeah, I had a question that was along the same lines that Caroline had said about the underground. So I'll just extend it to this. So when we're looking at like new development, is it the preference to do the new development underground?
It's required.
I think it's required in town.
Residential
It
subdivision.
is?
Yes.
Okay. So future developments and things we're building now, that they have to go underground. How long has that been in place?
Years.
Decades?
Decades.
Decades, okay. All right.
We did it 10 years ago.
Oh, longer than that. Probably maybe 20, 15 or 20. I mean, I know that y'all asked, at one point, there was, during the recession in '09,
Yeah.
it was probably before Council Delacour got on, there was a question about adding a small, like 40-cent fee on everybody's cell phone bill that would have paid for the underground wiring up downtown, but that was rejected. And I think somewhere around that time, the planning board started putting in,
I got on 10, so yeah.
probably around 2010, yeah, so
Yeah.
15, 16 years ago, yeah.
Are you all set, Gene?
Yep, no further questions.
I really don't have any complaints, because I live on the same side as Mike does, and I've been there 32 years. I think I lost it once for like an hour, so.
We'll come in your house.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you,
buy a
I have a
generator.
separate refrigerator, because my brother lives on Brook Street, and I know he's gonna lose, so we take his food and put it in my house. Just to show you, so that side is in trouble, you know. I just have another question, because I know we all get this question when you do have an outage, and it's very windy out. I know the answer, because I have a lot of friends that work on the lines. But
35 miles an hour.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
if you were going where I think you were, which is,
No, I am,
at what
because
point did we
we'll get
not
a phone
work?
call saying
Yeah.
they're parked up at Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
And why aren't they out fixing it? And I tell them the wind is just too high, they can't get out there.
Yeah.
So I just wanted.
It's unsafe to fly a bucket
Right.
at
Oh, absolutely.
35 or more miles per hour.
Absolutely. All right.
I infer from what you said that they're not in place right now, but from a redundancy standpoint, is there a potential to have some kind of effect, essentially mutual aid agreement with Eversource in those areas so that you could draw in from there, have some kind of an interconnect or something?
I will look more in depth to that particular area. I'm not entirely sure of Maple Street. I know I've driven up it once or twice, but I need to look at the wires there to see what's available, what we can do. I might be able to reconductor it and put some additional equipment up there we have what's called tree wire, which helps with with animal and tree contact. So we typically don't get outages from that unless the tree comes down and takes everything down. So there's things I can do to improve reliability, and I'll look to do something like that for that particular area. of town.
In terms of being able to share with another company, that you don't have that mechanism in place?
No, sir, we would have to have, meters, meters coming the other, going both ways to be able to bill each other. I just think it would be messy.
Yeah, in general, one franchise operator can't operate in the franchise of another.
Even with some kind of an agreement in place?
Well, in storms, we do. We do have mutual aid things that happen in storms. So, I mean, that may be a possibility, but it's nothing I could answer.
Right.
At this.
The irony is, and I don't know whose facility it is, but there's just a huge, as you probably
Yeah, it's a
know,
merchant power plant, yeah.
in Medway,
Yeah.
with all kinds of support for it, and more support that's actually being put in around it. And so it's kind of ironic that you can't tap into that in an emergency if you're not part of that system.
It's a fair comment, we'll look at it.
So anybody out there have any questions from the audience?
I don't have a question.
Yes, Steve, give your name.
Stephen Arnold, 520 Maple Street. I had a statement, I guess, I got a letter, a notice from National Grid about changing my electric meter, and I think the meter's been on the house since 1952, but I passed on it for now, and I guess, some people have said that it is efficient as far as regulating electrical demands for your house. Say if you install a Snyder switch or something to regulate your washer and dryer and things like that. I'm not up to speed on regulating my washer, dryer, or refrigerator and things, but I did have Rodenheiser come and say that I should be upgraded from it's at 3 watts now and should be 4 watts.
So, thank you, Mr. Arnold. I think what you're talking about is what we call AMI, Automated Metering Infrastructure. And National Grid is in the process of changing about 1.3 million meters. So we're changing them all from the standard older style meter to a meter that communicates and allows customers to log into their account and see how they're using energy real time. It also can begin to identify devices. Oh, it looks like you turned your dryer on. Do you want to name this your dryer? Now you can go and begin to manage your own energy. And there are also programs where we pay incentives for you to use devices off-peak, such as EV charging or large loads. So I think that's probably what Mr. Arnold's referring to. And it is happening. We are sending these messages to customers now. We are beginning to change meters, yeah.
32 years, mine.
Yep, yeah.
You have to be home to do it. And fortunately, most people both work, you know what I mean? So it's tough. You know? So, anybody else? I think you're off the hook.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
One down.
So the next item on is the fire chief, Chuck.
Good evening, Chuck Allen, Fire Chief. I'm joined by Deputy Chief of Operations Jim Klitsch, Deputy Chief of Administration Deputy Barbieri. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to be able to give you a little bit of a brief overview of our department, how we operate, a little bit of what we do. Start off a little bit of a mission statement. So the Franklin Fire Department is committed to providing the highest level of public safety services for our community. We safely protect lives and property through fire suppression, training, emergency medical transportation services, disaster and crisis management, fire prevention, and public education. But really what we do is we're a lot more than just fire and EMS. We're an all-hazards department. What that means is that we respond to really everything. And we're responsible for a lot in our community. Obviously, what we see on the roads is our trucks and, our ambulances going to, calls, fire calls and medicals. But we also do, fire investigation. We respond to structure fires, vehicle fires, brush fires, fire alarms, rescue operations, hazardous conditions. But a really big part of our business that people don't really see that we do is community risk reduction, code enforcement, and our public education. That is a huge part of what we do, and that actually reduces a lot of the other calls that we go on. The more we can educate the public, the more we can enforce code enforcement, the better off we are as a community, and it actually reduces a lot of what we do in emergency services. So it's a very, very important part of our business. That org chart here. So obviously, chief of department, and we have two deputy chiefs, one that's in charge of fire prevention and administration, and then one that's in charge of operations. We have an EMS battalion chief and an EMS captain, and then from there we go down to operate 4 groups from 2 fire stations. So each group, what's composed of a shift, our authorized staffing, is 14 personnel per shift. Each shift is commanded by a battalion chief, a shift commander, 1 captain, 1 lieutenant, and 11 firefighter paramedics. That gives us what we call the ICS principle, which is incident command structure. So we really have manageable supervision with that kind of management structure, with the battalion chief, the captain, and the lieutenant. This really gives you a little bit of what our staffing is by personnel level. We really operate here on the left side of this slide on a regular basis for the most part. We run down to 11. At 11 firefighters on a shift, we run 2 engines, 2 ambulances, we cross-staff our ladder truck, and we do have limited capability. We do run with 12 personnel at times, and that gives us the ability to staff our A3 by using some administrative personnel to get that staffed when we can. Only when the EMS captain is available or at the right shift staffing. So we do have partial EMS coverage at that level. The key to note with that is that there's a key limitation when we're staffed there. When A1 and A3 are unavailable, we have no tower truck available to respond because we do cross-staff our apparatus. So that means that our ambulance crew is also the crew that's on the tower truck. So if they're at the hospital, which is frequent, that tower truck is not staffed, and we rely on either another community or we have to call people in from home to staff that truck. What does meet our required service level for our community and our call volume is 13 personnel a shift, which is our target. We are there sometimes, but with vacation shifts and, holidays, sick time, we frequently will go down into the below required service level. At 14 personnel, we're at full staff. We have the tower truck staffed with A3 with cross staffed, and we have 3 ambulances available. What we really protect in our community, obviously we know Franklin's a community of 33,000 plus residents. Our families, our seniors, schools, our daily population movement. That's a big piece of Franklin that I think people don't really think about. It's what Franklin is during the day. When our businesses are open and when people are traveling on our roads, and 140 here and 495. We have 2 industrial parks. We have a lot of critical infrastructure. We have 2 commuter rail stations. A lot of people come through our community. We're also responsible for the care and wellness of those folks as well. And our community profile is evolving over time. I've been here with the department for 26 years, and I've seen a great change, I think, as we all have, in what the town, as any community does, has evolved. So we could talk a little bit about our fire prevention division. This is a big piece of our business. We are responsible for various amount of inspections and code enforcement. That happens every day. We work hand in hand with the building department, doing a lot of our inspections in commercial structures and residential structures. As some of you know, every time you sell a home, you have to have a smoke detector inspection. So we're out in a lot of occupancies, ensuring the safety of our residents and people that are moving into our community as well. A lot of the fire alarms and sprinkler systems are responsible for making sure those are maintained in our community. There's a lot of mandatory reporting that we're responsible for making sure is documented. So a lot of that stuff moves through our department. Plan review and building construction, all of that goes through us as well. That's a big piece of what we do. So anytime anybody does some work in their home, they're adding something on, or they're building a house, or they're building a commercial structure, those plans run through us. If you're adding solar panels to your house, or you want to put a battery energy storage in your house, those plans run through us. So we get the opportunity to take a look and make sure that people are going to be safe. And again, we work hand in hand with our building department for that as well. This slide gives you a little bit of what our increasing call for our emergency services has been. This is just the past 5 years leading up to here. We've had a 25.5% increase in our emergency service demand, and that's been sustained over the course of my career, certainly. So we see an average call volume increase of about, on average, a little bit better than 4.5% a year on average is our increase. Last year we had another high of 5,651 calls for service. 3,999 of those were emergency medical service calls. And then the rest comprised of, motor vehicle accidents, fire alarms, building fires and that kind of stuff. The breakdown of those calls from last year, you can see on the left side of the screen here, 3,999 EMS calls, hazardous conditions, service calls, good intent calls. Again, we're an all hazards department. So we're going to respond to anytime anybody has a need, we're going to respond to that. Community risk reduction, last year we had 1,488 total inspections, and that's going to be inspections in businesses and homes, commercial structures, residential. We also put on 119 community events, so that's really important for our risk reduction in our community. A lot of those are done through our SAFE program, as well as our EMS division through CPR, Stop the Bleed programs and such. This slide gives you a little bit of what our response area has been. Our new RMS, our records management software, allows us to track where our calls are really happening. It's a little bit tough to see in the map here, but what's composed in this red area is 495 and 140, and that's where our 2 fire stations are located. We have a fire station on King Street, a fire station downtown. Those areas comprise of a lot of our high-risk occupancies. So the 140 corridor, 495, King Street corridor, a lot of our elderly housing is there. Our urgent care centers are in those locations. Nursing homes, all of our commercial space is really there. 2 industrial parks in that Grove Street corridor, all served by mostly the King Street Fire Station. And then it's a lot denser population. But if you notice up in the top part of the slide in the map, going towards Medway, that's a lot of call volume there. We're not really represented in that part of the community with the fire station, so that's probably going to be a future need for the community at some point. Our call volume projection, where we really see ourselves being over the next 5 years, and this is based on our historical data from the last 5 years and beyond, we're going to be approaching 7,000 calls by 2030. This year, we're 5,651. Based on what we've seen over these past volume, we'll be over 6,800 by, in the next 5 years. So that is an extraordinary amount, and we will need to make some investment in the department for that. Our EMS division is comprised of a battalion chief and an EMS captain. They're responsible for training, competency, and ongoing education. EMS operations, how we deploy and our coordination, and our quality insurance. That's a big part of what our EMS division does. That allows us to make sure we're providing quality patient care, and it also allows us to make sure that we are trying to recoup every dollar we can on EMS calls as well, to make sure everything is documented properly. Especially since COVID, that has become an increasingly busy part of our operation, making sure that everything is documented correctly, and we have a lot of patient care needs. So they also, all of our EMS, like CPR, public CPR courses, things through the SAFE Coalition that we've had, Stop the Bleed program, those things are all run through our EMS too, and those two personnel handle all that coordination and getting that done. In 2025, this slide actually speaks a lot of volumes to me. We're all paramedics in the department. Last year, we had 2,876 ambulance transports to the hospital. We started 925 IVs. We interpreted 801 12-lead EKGs. We administered medication to 285 patients. We had 19 cardiac arrests, and we had 14 advanced airway is inserted. The big one to me is the bottom number. It's a small number, but ROSC stands for return to spontaneous circulation. Those are people that were in cardiac arrest that we saved their life by the skills and quality of our paramedics. That doesn't seem like a big number, but it's a pretty big number, especially being in EMS for a long time. That's really, really well. So I think we have a great department here. Our EMS revenue, this shows you where we've been over the past 5 years. Again, the more calls we have, the more revenue that we're able to bill comes in, and it really covers about a third of our budget, roughly about 35%. Last year, we including CPE, which is a certified public expenditure, where we can go back and get some Medicare money, we were about 2.7 million roughly in revenue. So that's really quite a bit of money coming back that covers the ambulance service. And this next slide shows a little bit of our mutual aid. Mutual aid, unfortunately, and it's been this way for a long time, certainly since COVID, it's not mutual. We take in about 65% more mutual aid than we're able to actually give out. Last year, we had 325 mutual aid responses into our community, and we gave out about 158, if my memory serves me correct. So most of those are ambulance calls, and most of it is because our call volume and our frequency of simultaneous emergency calls. This slide here shows that of our 5,651 total calls last year in calendar year 25, 3,743 of those, or 66% of them, occurred while at least one other incident was already in progress. So we only have 2 fire stations. When we are staffed with 2 ambulances and 2 engines, when we're at that below required service level that we were just talking about, that's all we can handle. So of those 3,743 calls, we handle those. The real breakdown gets down when we get into the other incidents, when we get into 2 or more emergency calls, and last year we had 575 of those, and then of 2 or more, and then 4 or more, 225, and so on and so on. So some of those are from extraordinary events, but some of that is our daily operation. We do run in a critical need often. Our FY27 budget that you'll see that's been out, that's a level service budget. We're about $8.4 million. Again, 95% of that roughly is personnel costs. We have a very small amount that's administrative, operating expenses, and they've remained pretty stable over the last several years because we've been very, very proactive in grant funding. We've received over $3.2 million, and we just received another small grant from FEMA and from the state, and from NEMA, we've had a few, and through DFS. That really funds a lot of our other needs. So in those grants, they give us money for training. In a lot of those training programs, when we write them, they'll typically be to go along with equipment that we need and things like that to offset some of our costs. So in the past, since 2019, 3.2 million, it's almost $500,000 a year that is not coming out of our operating budget. That's really being funded by grants and things that were written. And I think what's really important about that number is that we don't use a grant writer for that money. We use firefighters. We use people come in on their own time, and they sit down and they research what's important to them, what they feel is important to the community, and they spend a lot of time writing those grants. A lot of communities will hire a grant writer and try their best to do that. We don't do that. We have our firefighters write those grants, and we've been extremely successful getting funding that way. Hopefully they continue. I don't know if FEMA will be, if they'll have a lot of money going forward. It's been a little slow, not gonna lie, recently, but we'll still keep doing our best. This is a big part of how we got here. In the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've made a lot of changes in the department. As Jamie will tell you, we made some real big strides. I know you've heard it before. We transitioned out of civil service in 2020. It was very controversial. A lot of departments don't want to leave civil service. But we did that, and when we did that, we reorganized the department and we improved our operational efficiency quite a bit. We eliminated a dedicated fire prevention day position, but we moved those into reclassified roles into battalion chiefs. So each battalion chief is also responsible for a portion of fire prevention. The other ones that go out and they do residential smoke detector inspections during the day. We try and schedule those throughout the morning typically, but they're also in charge of the shift, so they all have dual roles. In fact, when you look at our organization chart, most of our employees have multiple roles in the organization. They don't just do one job, they're doing a lot, especially in our administration. EMS captain is doing multiple roles, or EMS battalion chief is in multiple roles, and the same with the rest of administrative staff. So we've been doing very well with that, with consolidation of efforts. We, at the time, we rolled a lot of stipend positions into that. We reduced quite a bit of costs, and we were able to grow the department a bit and increase our bandwidth and increase our safety. The role of a battalion chief, as we said, is an incident commander. We didn't have that dedicated role at that time. And as firefighters that have all come through the system, it's pretty scary to be in a building and not have somebody outside that's checking for your safety. So that's a big thing that we're able to get in this department, and we're very proud of it. Not a lot of communities are able to have that dedicated role, and we do here. This is a little bit of our regional comparison. We try and make sure where we're at in finances to be competitive in what we pay our employees. And you can see from this in our regional comparative stats, we're right about in the middle. We don't pay extraordinarily well, and we don't pay extraordinarily awful. We're right in the middle of the road. It says a lot about our employees, because as time has gone by, a lot of people will shop and want to be someplace where they're going to make the most amount of money. They don't do it here, but they have the most amount of involvement, and they have the most amount of opportunity in our community, and people still want to come here, and I think that's really a testament to our organization. And if you look at what we cost the community in our region per capita, we're the second cheapest fire department per capita in our region. Only best by North Fork, who only runs 3 firefighters a shift. So we're getting a lot of bang for our buck with this organization. We do a lot with a little, and that's really what we've been about. Our future needs are really going to be staffing. I think that you'll see that as time goes by, we will have a need to add staffing. We do need to add, in my opinion, at least 4 firefighters soon. So we do need to get that up, and that will give us the ability to run at 13 minimum, which would keep us on that right side of that chart, which would get us in a more appropriate staff level all the time. It would get our tower truck staffed more often, and it would get A3 staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is needed. We do need to have a good equipment replacement plan. I think we do. We've had that in the last we have a good outlook, but I think we probably increase that out a little farther as we go. We just did acquire that new fire truck. That's been really well for us. We're about to put that in service. But as things age, we do need to make sure we keep up on that and make sure we're prepared for those things in the future. Those vehicles are not getting cheaper. They're only getting more expensive, so we need to make sure that we're ready for that. And facilities needs. Our fire stations, as much as they're new or fairly new, Station 2 on King Street's 26 years old now. That will have needs as it goes. As the fire service has been evolving, there will be needs to make sure the building is safer for our employees, and make sure that we reduce carcinogens in the firehouse and stuff like that. Modern facilities do that. So we'll need to make sure we make improvements as they become available, to make sure that our employees are safe. And I think we'll probably, we're gonna need a fire station on the north part of Franklin. I know it's on the master plan. It was talked about when I started here 26 years ago, and I know it's gonna be talked about again as time goes on in the future, but that's something that should be planned for our community. We're an ISO 1 department. We're very proud of that. We're only one of 17 in New England. It's pretty tough to become an ISO 1 department. It's pretty rigorous. It's also pretty tough to maintain it. So we have to make sure that to maintain that, a lot of it is training, a lot of it is through Public Works and the water system that we have here, but a lot of it is through our equipment and our response times. We need to make sure that we don't fall behind in that, so we can maintain that when they come around again to audit us. So that's a big portion of what we need to do. How we support Franklin's priorities. We protect lives and property through emergency response. We support economic development. I think a safe community brings people that want to live here. Just like great schools bring people that want to educate their kids here. A safe environment, safe community with good fire and EMS brings businesses that want to come here, people that want to operate here. I think that's really important. We enable safe housing growth and development. We provide critical public health services to our community. We reduce risk through fire prevention, inspection, and education. We strengthen our community preparedness and resilience, and we protect that community through our essential services. So, and really what we need from you as a council, we need policy support, we need budget priorities, and we need long-term planning alignment. We need to make sure that we're all on the same page of where we have to go. I think that's it. I think any questions?
Do the same thing, Councilman Maloney.
Thanks, Chief, and thanks for putting all this together. This was great, and we had a talk a couple of weeks ago and kind of had a preview of some of this, so this is great. Couple of questions in no particular order. 678 false alarms you listed in the chart. I mean, what constitutes a false alarm? I have this image as a kid going out to pull a pull box and then running away.
No, I think you can probably say it's any alarm that's really, we go there, it's not for any particular reason, so.
It could be they thought they smelled something.
Okay.
We get there, or carbon monoxide.
So nothing was
detector
found,
went off, but our
but-
meter shows there's no carbon monoxide. Those are all considered false alarms.
But you still obviously have to go when that call
Correct.
comes in,
Yeah.
because you don't know that till after the fact.
Correct.
Okay, got it. I just wasn't sure how that worked. And on staffing, like, I guess ideal today is 14 people on duty,
Ideal today is a minimum of 13.
minimum of 13.
A minimum of 13 allows us to staff a third ambulance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It gives us the 2 extra people that we need to do that.
Right.
And that gives us the cross-staffing ability for the tower truck.
Right. And how often do you reach that 13?
It's occasional. I think in the last, since January 1st, it was probably about 40 hours a week. 50 hours a week, depends. It's up, it's tonight, we're at that, at midnight. So it's sporadic, it's just not consistent. So that's really where we need to get the consistency. And the reason for that is because we have people out on sick time or a holiday or vacation or we have 3 firefighters injured right now that are out. So that takes someone off the roster and they're not available. So I think the buffer with having a shift staff from 14 to 15 gives us the safe buffer to be able to have a minimum of 13.
I think that's something we should keep track of. It sounds like you do. I know you have good data and there's good ways of tracking all that, because it'd be interesting to know how infrequently we're there, which obviously leads to limited coverage, maybe more mutual aid or less ambulance calls if we could do it.
It does.
But I'm sure at some point, and maybe it's below 11, then you've got to pull somebody in on overtime.
We never go in below 11. So if we drop below 11, we order someone to stay from they don't go home.
That's what I'm saying.
Essentially is
So
what happens.
once you hit 11 and then
Yeah.
or below that, you've got to bring people in, and I'm sure there's a cost associated with that unscheduled overtime.
Yeah, there
Which,
is.
kind of fits into the overall cost of not having those.
Yes,
those
and when
positions.
we were down at that level, another piece of this to look at is that when you run it in a service level where you're always in a constant state of emergency, let's say, where these calls are coming in frequently, we will frequently call people in from home to try and cover the apparatus, which is very inefficient. So that's something that happens more often than it probably should, so.
Yeah, and I'm sure you keep track of it, and as we kind of progress and move on and look at things, that might be good, just good data to look at to kind of analyze what the overall opportunity cost is of losing those positions, but the real dollar cost in terms of what it takes to staff them when we need to.
Yes.
So I think that's important. No, otherwise, I thought it was great, very impressive, obviously really busy. You take those numbers, number of calls per year divided by, 52 weeks or, 7 days a week. I mean, you guys are hopping, there's no question about it.
We are busy
so-
for sure.
So, thank you and all you guys for what you do. Thank you. It's impressive. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Three questions for you, and again, appreciate the materials that you shared and certainly the presentation. You spoke about, some of this ability is supported by $3.2 million in grant funding since 2019, and your firefighters go in and do the grants and things they care about, which is fantastic. Would there be a benefit to having a more dedicated approach to seeking out grants?
I think we take every opportunity that we can. I don't think there's a grant we haven't applied for.
No, they're kind of limited. It's the main ones we do are the assistance to firefighter grants, which are the FEMA grants.
So they're limited. So even as we scale up, as we talked about increasing call volume of by roughly 1,200 additional calls over the next 5 years, but that grant number is not going up.
No, probably not. I mean, it's through the federal government, so I mean, it's.
So it might go down.
It could go down. That's a possibility. I mean, they're very, very competitive also. We've been extraordinarily lucky that we've received some of the grant funding that we have. We've even, some of our funding has been through other communities. We've helped with regional grants. So that comes from that too as well. So I don't know that it'll go up. I mean, it could go down, but.
Probably won't go away, might go down.
It might go down.
Almost definitely not going up.
Yeah, right.
Okay, thank you. And then my third question around training and compliance requirements, you talked about ISO or ISO 1. Can you just give a little color for us on what that is, why that's helpful, useful to, a worthwhile target?
So it's really a metric to measure your department. It's comprised of a lot of different areas. It's comprised of how you're staffed. It's comprised of your response time, the investment your community has made in infrastructure. So it has a lot to do with the maintenance of our water system and the ability to gauge how efficient the waterways are in our community for fire suppression. That really is what makes it up. A lot of it is training, how often we're able to train, and what we have for apparatus and what we have for backup apparatus all plays into that metric. Typically an ISO rating, an ISO 1 department, a community that has an ISO 1 department can see lower rates in insurance costs and homeowners insurance. But it really is a measure of the investment that the community's made in the department and the investment that the firefighters that work there have made in themselves, so.
No, appreciate that. It's interesting that actually may impact your home insurance prices.
It's a possibility. I don't know how it's all measured out.
Yeah,
but
but it may
that
be
is their
a
forte.
potential component. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And helping with grants.
Yes.
So a good reason to maintain that rating. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I also have a handful of questions. So first of all, thank you for being here, and thank you to your department for all the great things. 6 lives saved from cardiac arrest. That's not a small number. That's an incredible number, and so we are all grateful for that. All right. So you had described the reorganization and the addition of the battalion chiefs. you mentioned that they are responsible now for kind of the residential fire prevention programs as well, right? But you also said that in an emergency, they're the ones who are kind of outside the building. What happens if they're already deployed in a prevention?
They have to leave it.
Okay.
That's the danger of having too many jobs at once. But they'll leave it. And we have our administrative assistant in the office, Tracy, who I like to say, and she wouldn't want to hear it, she really runs the fire department because she knows everything.
Truly.
She actually has a radio next to her desk, and she'll hear what's going on and say, oh, I can't, she'll make a phone call and say, hey, we're going to be late. I know a lot of realtors have probably gotten phone calls from her over the years, but we eventually get to do the inspection. So we do our best to make sure we can accommodate that, but emergency services takes priority, so it is what it is.
With an additional 4 firefighters, as you said, would some of those duties shift so that people weren't doing duplicative, or not duplicative, but like additional roles, kind of maintaining, or no?
Doesn't really change. The only thing
that
that will affect is that we currently use, when available, our EMS captain's position, which is extraordinarily difficult to get things done when emergency calls come in. And we send that person to the hospital, which is not really the best use of a company officer, sending them out of town. So it's very difficult to have them. They're responsible for a lot of programs, our internal training and external training in the department. So that would be the only, if we had 4 more firefighters, that job would be able to be done consistently, and that would be a great improvement to the community. Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. And yes, I realize that emergency always takes precedent. I was just wondering kind of how that works when you have them already doing other things. Thank you. So we had this drastic increase in calls in the last 5 years, 25%. And also I noticed you had mentioned like since COVID, is that just like a time frame that you're giving here, or
it's just
are those
a time
related?
frame.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a time frame. I will say that COVID has affected probably all emergency services out there. Our turnaround time at the hospital is much slower. We've all seen hospitals close. We lost Norwood Hospital. That a lot of times we'll have an ambulance go to, and they'll hold the wall. So they'll have the patient on the stretcher, and they can't turn over care, and they can't leave them. So they have to stay with them for an extended period of time. That has affected some of our call concurrency, and that's not going to go away. It's just the nature of the business now. So that's really what's affected a lot of that.
Okay. Any ideas on what other reasons, or why we are having such an increase in calls, or is there something that you've noticed?
I think that we're the go-to, and as our community grows, as I can tell you, my mom would never call 911, but I would do it, so I mean,
Yeah.
we're all taught that if you need help, call the fire department, call the police department, that's what our society has evolved into, and that is, I think, probably a little bit of why we see some increase, and we have a lot of other responsibility as well with development. So any development, a lot of commercial space, those tax and services. We've seen a lot of commercial development, which is good for the community, but it does have an effect on us, and we do have to respond to calls in those locations. So,
Well, and I think it says something to how the community views you all as really important part of someone who they can trust to call. And with that in mind, I think you said there are, you've done 119, something like that, community, I've lost the number now, but.
public safety programs, yeah.
Yes, in a year.
Yep.
And so when kind of the wallet gets tight, are those the things that get cut first when you,
They are,
yeah?
yeah. This year, we actually had to, it was a very, very tough decision. We had to reduce the amount of the seniors we have. We have a senior project, and they come and they work with 2 firefighters, our safe officer and one of his aides, and they get a feel for the fire department, and they spend a lot of time with us. We had to reduce that down to 4 just because we don't have the bandwidth to do it, but we still provide the service.
Right.
So it's just we would be happy to do more.
Right. And was it your department or police, and I've forgotten now, who used to or does when they can, the, like, car seat checks and things like that, was that?
It's the police
That's the
department, yeah.
Okay, I remember hearing about
Yep.
it the other day, and I couldn't remember which department it was, so sorry about that. Okay, and then my last question is, you had talked about the facilities needing improvements or eventually needing more improvements to maintain safety. When those improvements are being done, what, are those facilities still usable? Do they go offline for a while? Is it-
No, they're still, I'll give you an example. Right now, we're in the process of upgrading through a grant, our vehicle exhaust system. So when an apparatus is parked in the station, running that vehicle in the building, is a hazard. So it's a diesel engine, it gives off exhaust fumes. So there's a way that those exhaust fumes are captured, and that's really kind of come of age in the fire service in the last 30 years or so. And you'll see the yellow hoses that hang if you drive by the fire station, those hook to the exhaust. We're in the process of upgrading all that equipment to the latest technology, and we're funding that through a grant. As time goes by, that may be something the community may have to invest in. Modern fire stations have negative pressure environments for the gear. We don't have that. Most fire stations don't have that. But if you're building a facility or upgrading a facility, as cancer is the #1 killer of firefighters, that's going to be something down the road that might have to be looked at. That you're going to want to have your gear stored in a room that is a negative pressure environment that pushes any of those carcinogens out of the building. There's going to be infrastructure, things like that, things that have to get replaced. And other stuff like any other public building, sprinkler systems and, maintenance and fire alarms, stuff like that will have to be, continue to be invested in. We do have great fire stations. In fact, when people come and do training, they often marvel at how great our facilities are. But as time goes by, we'll have to make some improvements, so.
Thanks. On the way over here, I came in with my 3 little ones and my 3-year-old. We stopped at the light in front of the fire station, and he went, "Oh, is that the fire?" He was so excited. And my daughter was like, "What?" Yeah, my daughter was like, "We'll go by sometime. It's almost spring break." And I was like, "You just walk in," but maybe we will, because he was very excited. Sorry, I know it's the last question, but then I wanted to just confirm. So I think I saw that the budget is 8.44 million, but you bring in about 2.7 in revenue, and you get about 3.2 in grants, right? So we're looking at kind of a remainder of about 2.5, if I've got that. No, we're.
Through Mr. Chairman, the 3.2 million in grants is an aggregate over 6 years.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think you're looking at roughly about $500,000 a year on average. Some of those grants were larger, but you're looking at an average of 500.
If we were to try and do those programs through our regular budget or through a capital improvement, we'd probably be adding $500,000 to the budget, but we don't have to do that, so we have to rely on that, so.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you so much.
Councilor LeBlanc?
I think a department that does 2% of their responses as fire and 70% of their responses as EMS, you need to change your name of your department.
That would be controversial.
Well, I mean, you're more of an emergency management or emergency medical department than you are a fire department, so.
Correct.
I think that jumps out at me. As it relates to the shift, define what a shift is. Is it 24 hours on? How is the staffing of?
It's 24 hours on, so our shifts are 7A to 7A. So
Okay.
they do 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 5 off, and they come back and it starts over again.
Okay, and you need how many kind of groups to do that? Is that 4 groups
Four
to-
groups,
to
yeah.
to meet that cycle?
Yeah, they work on a rotating schedule, so our week is an 8-day week.
Yeah.
We go on an 8-week stretch, and then the system starts over again.
Okay, all right, beautiful. You had a category called critical infrastructure, which was 495 and the MBTA station. Is that a benefit to have those in town, to have 495? Obviously, you send a lot of car accidents, a lot of time is spent to that. I'm sure we don't get reimbursed for your time being out there to do that. I'm sure the state don't write us a check for that.
No.
So Bellingham is right next door. They don't have, is there a benefit to having an MBTA? I mean, how much of the town's budget is kind of?
I wouldn't say it's an extraordinary amount. I think any community that has any kind of major roadways that run through it have the same kind of response data that we
Right.
would, I don't think we're any different than anybody else as far as, benefit or not. I think probably the tax base for those is probably beneficial of having, the industrial
Yes.
parks and all that.
Correct.
But we have a responsibility to make sure those buildings are safe as well, so.
Yeah.
But any community that would have that kind of,
Yeah.
have that kind of
Yeah.
volume. I know we had, you had mentioned that we do respond to a lot of EMS, but I will say that as a fire department, a low-frequency event that's like a structure fire, those emergencies, those are critical. And I think most fire departments operate the way that we do, especially ones that run EMS. So that, I think we had 76 incidents of fire last year. I know it's a small percentage, but those are very high-risk events. And we've been very, very fortunate, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. We've had no fatal house fires, and we've had no significant injuries to firefighters, which is a testament to how well our people train and do their job, so.
Awesome, that's great. You had the mutual aid slide where it looked like 1/3, 2/3.
Yeah.
I'm sure this would never happen, but at some point in time, doesn't Medway or Bellingham say, stop calling us, and how about you start sending it the other way?
We can't, I mean, but they like it because they get the money. So most of those.
So actually, that was gonna be my next question. How does that work when it comes to mutual aid?
So last year, we had 325 mutual aid in and 158 out. When the mutual aid, 90% of those, 99% of those are usually EMS. So if another town comes in here and does an EMS call, they're gonna collect the revenue for that. I'm sure that the community enjoys the revenue that they're collecting from us. But that being said, we do tax our neighbors more than we probably should. And they are also growing at the same rate that we are. I know there's an apartment building in Medway on 126 they want to put in. That's going to tax them. Bellingham, spoke to the chief the other day in Bellingham, and they want to put a large development in over there. As those communities grow, they're going to have the same needs that we do. So they're going to need to grow as well. So they won't have the ability to as often be over here, so.
Yeah, I mean, brings up a point that Councilor Malloy was saying, kind of those numbers would be interesting to see if there were 200 more calls that we could have done from an EMS, what the revenue would have been. Yes, it's not, you'd be spending more, but in theory, it provides more protection. There's a numbers game in there that could make it benefit from just a pure selling point in that regard.
And I think, you might have mentioned it before in another conversation, but when we bring in revenue over time, eventually that revenue will catch up to the cost of the expense. I think that I'm not going to say it's going to be today. I can't tell you exactly what every single ambulance call is going to generate, because it depends on if it's paid by Medicare, if it's a self-paid, or if it's a Blue Cross Blue Shield, or whatever they're going to pay for a rate. But eventually, over time, that would get added to our rolls. And if you look at the volume over the next 5 years, we'd probably be able to capture a lot more of it.
Okay. And the last comment I'll say, you highlighted it where you said there were 6 residents or people within the town of Franklin where you guys resuscitated from probably near death. Whether that number was 1 or 6, doesn't make a difference what that number is. It's that's what you're there for. So again, thank you all for your service in that regard, in all regard, but especially that. Thank you.
Thank you.
To you.
Thank you, all of you for coming out today for the council meeting. I had a couple questions. You talked a little bit about the grants that you have. I just wanted to know if there are any major grants that are at risk of coming offline, and if they do come offline, will they have to be backfilled by town revenue?
I think a lot of our grants revolve around training. So that's the real, some infrastructure grants as well. It really kind of depends on what goes on with FEMA. The government's been open and closed and open and closed and open and closed. So I don't really know, but we're running a training program right now on rescues, on like rope rescue and extrication. So that's something that's fully paid for by a grant. It pays for all the backfill for the employees. At some point, yes, if grants go away, we're gonna have to add to our training budget. We've been fortunate we haven't had to do that, and we'll continue to be diligent to make sure that we get every dollar that's available to us. But the answer to that question is eventually it could possibly be.
So it's a risk.
It's a risk.
Okay. You mentioned, I know we have like sort of the substation and the main department. How much you showed the leadership chart with the captain, lieutenant, and the firefighters and paramedics. How is the staffing split between the main department and the substation?
So headquarters has a battalion chief, a lieutenant, and the rest is comprised of firefighters. Station 2, the King Street station, has what we call a house captain. So they're the captain of that station. for that shift, and then 4 firefighters. So they'll have a captain and 2 firefighters on the engine, and then 2 firefighters on the ambulance at that station. The headquarters will have a battalion chief in the command vehicle, and then the engine likewise, a lieutenant, 2 firefighters, and then 2 firefighters on the ambulance. If we're staffed higher at headquarters, where we don't have as many people out, we'll move that personnel to the 3rd ambulance, the tower truck. Again, that ambulance at headquarters cross-staffs the ladder truck, so.
Do the firefighters rotate between the King Street station and the main station, or are they just one or the other?
We open up shift bidding so they can bid to the station. They rotate their position in the apparatus, so not everybody's on the ambulance every shift. Some shifts they're on it, some shifts they're off of it, so.
You mentioned what is the average annual percent increase in calls that are non-EMS related? Is it, you said in general it's 4%?
It's about a 4% increase
For both?
year over year, and I think probably 76% of our calls are EMS, somewhere around there, so you're probably in the
So
math.
it's even, it's
Yeah.
the AMS and the non-EMS are going up at the same rate?
About, they do, yeah.
Okay. And how much of the increase in if we were to increase ambulance service, how much could be covered through billing versus funding from the general fund?
I think we talked about that with FinCon. It would be almost impossible to say what it would bring in. I think eventually that ambulance would probably pay for itself at some point. You can see from the budget, it pays about 35%, a third of the department. I think you could probably expect that right off the bat. But, eventually I think it would probably pay for itself over the course of the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay, and then eventually as the town grows, will there be a 4th ambulance or?
Yeah, I mean, it happens to every community,
Okay. How much of, you mentioned your ISO Class 1 status, which is really great. I commend the department for that. But as the town continues to struggle with revenue to fund the department, and considering the current staffing and response time trends, how close are we to a point where recertification might be at risk?
We're very close. So we make ISO 1 by a point, a quarter point? I mean, it's not by much. It's not by much. I think that the dangerous spot we are is probably response time. And then if we don't continue to invest in, infrastructure and water mains and stuff, that could probably hurt us down the road. Training is a huge piece of that as well, and maintaining our training, courses and stuff we put on really help keep that number where it should be, so.
Do you see, the town's revenue picture going, forward in the next 5 years as making a difference in that certification?
Yeah, I think if the town doesn't have enough revenue to fund public safety, we will lose our ISO rating. That's not a fast stretch.
Okay. And finally, we talk about the budget situation for the fire department. I think we had a private conversation. You said, there's only so much you could do to be more and more efficient until something gives. How much more can we sustain until something gives? And if something gives, what will that look like?
You can't provide the service. I mean, we would always do the best we can to provide the emergency services that calls that come into our community. But everybody has multiple jobs. Like we were just discussing about the EMS positions, where we would have to give up public safety programs at some point. That's not good for our community. The problem with that is that one side of our organization is geared towards reducing emergencies as much as we possibly can, educating the public, doing inspections, making sure our businesses and our residences are safe, and the people that travel through our community. If we give up on that, then the other side increases. There's no way to get around it, so.
Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi. Few questions. But first, thank you for everything that you guys do. You've been to my house a few times, so. First question is, and I want to just make sure I understand the numbers. So the 8.44 for FY '27 is what you're asking,
Yep.
right? Okay. Does that include any positions coming back to get you up to the 13, 14?
That's level service. So that keeps us where we're at right now, operating the same.
Okay. Now, the grant funding is not part of that number.
No.
Okay, so that grant funding is above this for those specific things that,
Yep, so when we go and ask for capital improvements, like 2 years ago, we didn't ask for a vehicle exhaust system replacement, which
Right.
would have been a couple $100,000 because we were able to fund that in a grant. Training programs that we've been able to offer within the department, within the organization, those are the things that we probably wouldn't do. So we would not have, we would not be able to train our staff, properly or continually. We would see an effect in it overall in the organization over a time, but those grants do not provide money that's directly used in our operating budget to, offset costs of personnel. It's really to offset costs of expenses outside of it, so.
okay. I just wanted to clarify that, because I wasn't sure, so I don't want anyone thinking that that's part of that. All right, so then, I did some math, so I want to understand, if you get an 8.44 budget, and I did 35% for ambulance, is roughly 2.9 million.
Yep.
So if you subtract that from, I just can't find where I did it, if you subtract that from your budget, you're actually looking for 5.4 million theoretically in your budget, because the 2.9 is coming in from the
I
ambulance.
think it's tough to look at it exactly that way because the ambulance revenue goes into the general fund. So I think it's in the offset costs of the community is probably a little bit different. But I guess in cause and effect, yes. that
I
would be
look
the
at
case.
it that way because the reality is, if you didn't have that, the 8.4 would be coming out of our tax levies and everything like that. So realistically, what taxpayer money is contributing is the 5.4.
Yes.
Because the other 2.9 comes from the ambulance.
Yes.
And I saw that on the FinCom meeting, that the ambulance is running part-time, about 40 hours.
Yes, the third vehicle.
The third
Yeah.
ambulance. So when does that get paid off?
As far as paid
Like,
off by.
do we still owe money on that ambulance, or was that already paid for?
So when we buy ambulances, we usually will take, there's a small portion that's portioned away from that money that comes in. And just like the fire truck replacement, where we put away 125,000 every year, we do the same thing with the ambulance, and that's put away in a fund, and then we purchase the
So
vehicle.
it's paid for
We buy it outright.
Okay, perfect, even better. So if it's running approximately part-time, it would be reasonable to assess that if it was a full-time ambulance, we could pull in about 30, at least 50% in
Yeah, it's tough to
ballparking it. I know you can't
It's
give
tough to
no
say,
exact
yeah.
science.
It's tough to say. We would have to put it in service and run it for a period of a few years to actually go back and look, like we have with this data, and say, yeah, this is what it's generating. I think eventually it would probably offset the cost of the employees. But I think there would be a cost to it right off the bat.
So, most of the calls that other towns come and take for us, is it because the third ambulance is not in service?
Yes.
Okay, and the response time is because either A, with their third ambulance is not in service, or they're stuck at the hospital because the hospital can't get to the patient and they can't leave them.
Yes.
Neither one we can, well, the hospital one we can't do anything about. So, the way I'm looking at it, if there was a way to get it in full-time, we would increase it because we wouldn't be having to call the other towns in. So if we look at how many times we've called them in because that ambulance is sitting in the garage or wherever it's parked, that's the revenue we would have generated.
Yes. I think what is important to understand about mutual aid is that, would we capture all 325 calls? No.
No.
Because if you look at our call concurrency, there are times when there are 4 or 5 calls. So I think it would be unrealistic to say that we would capture every one of those. I think it would be more realistic to say that if we've given out 158 emergency responses, we would probably take in 158 emergency responses. I think that would be more prudent way to answer that, that we would probably be a little bit more equal in our mutual aid, a little bit more mutual.
So we
than
could
are.
respond more for them.
We would, and truthfully, sometimes we respond more for them because they're here. So, I mean, there are times our ambulance is leaving the hospital and we're going to Norfolk because Norfolk is doing a call for us. That is how mutual aid works, though. That is the design of the system. But I don't want you to be under the impression that we would respond to and do 325 more calls. That may not be the case.
No, and I get that, and I understand the concept of mutual aid, just to make sure that every town has somebody to respond when people need you, and you work as a team, even though you're from different towns. The idea is if we didn't have to call them in, just because it was sitting parked, because we didn't have residents. That's where I'm coming from. I get they're still gonna happen, because if they're already out and somebody else decides they need an ambulance, we're gonna have to call in another town. I don't wanna see that we're calling in another town because we don't have that one up and running.
I agree.
That's where I'm looking at. So and basically, that's why I'm looking at the number, and I know realistically it all comes from the budget because the money goes back to the town, so I get that. But if you wanted to be realistic without that money coming in from the ambulance, the whole 8.4 would have to come from the taxpayers.
Without the ambulance revenue, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's where I was coming from. So part of your actual budget is from your receipts?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You already gave a big.
I mean, I already gave you a huge kudos at the beginning of the meeting, right? But as a dad who walked the kids on the strollers into the station multiple times just for something to do, and you were always greeting us with open arms and a smile on our face and helping those kids, and I know I'm not the only one. I was really glad to hear the explanation a little bit more in detail about battalion chiefs, because they're not administration, right? Just to get that misnomer out there, those men and women are truly frontline folks. They're responding to the emergency. They're managing everything if need be. They're going in, they're participating. They may have some administrative duties, right, because they're part of your leadership team, but they're not sitting at a desk.
Correct.
They're truly out there doing response work. I happen to deal a lot with your battalion chiefs with smoke detector inspections, but I wonder if you could just talk to the public a little bit about if you're not selling your house, right? Because I see this a lot where people are often very surprised at, I have to bring my home up to code with the new types of smoke detectors that talk to each other and have the, carbon monoxide and everything, and it gets super confusing, and people are like, well, I've had those for a long time and they've worked fine, so could you just briefly, because I know we're running long, but maybe just for the public's education, what is it that they need in their homes?
So every year, we have, in Fire Prevention Week, we ask people to check their smoke detectors and make sure that they operate. You shouldn't have a smoke detector or a carbon monoxide detector that's over 10 years old. So if it's been in your house that long, it's time to change it. The code varies, and I think Deputy Perry might be able to speak a little bit to how complicated it is in Massachusetts. But the code does vary as part of the age of your home, what you have to have. If it's a newer home, there are more requirements. If it's an older home, the requirements are a little bit less stringent. But you should have modern devices in the house. So.
What I've always appreciated about you guys, unlike many other communities, you come out on those appointments to do these smoke inspections, and if something's not quite right, you're not slamming the homeowner and saying, fail and you got to pay all over again.
Yeah,
right? I've always really appreciated that about you guys, where you're coming in and you're talking through what's needed and saying, you know what, we'll come back.
Yep.
And you paid your fee, because I deal with a lot of other communities where that's not the case. Right, where
We try to do the best we can we don't want to be a burden, and we want to make sure that people are safe, and when the new homeowners come in, that they have a good start in our community, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely, so thank you for that. And lastly, all the slides were fantastic, but you talked about being kind of at the bottom of the scale regionally for pay. We talked about not having enough people, hours being long, some equipment issues, some facility issues, times not having optimal staff ratios, yet we're still an ISO 1, yet we're still doing all this fantastic stuff. So how's morale?
Great. I mean, we have a great fire department. We have great employees. We hire the best, and we retain the best. Morale is good. I think morale would go the other way if we weren't supported by our community, but we have been, and I think we've seen that in the last 5 or 6 years. And part of that is those changes that we made, they were really positive for our organization. Those required an investment by previous councils. They required an investment from the public. And we've done well with that. I think my intent with this is to show where we are, where we need to be. We still need to put more investment in. We can't go backwards. But we have a great fire department. Morale is really great. We have a lot of opportunity here. We've created a lot of opportunity. And like I said, no, we're not the highest paid fire department. I'm sure, I wish we were. We're not. But people still want to come here because we are a progressive organization. And you have supported us. So I think that support, if it's continued, will continue to be great. So.
And how's your retention, Chief? Pretty good?
We're good. We're really good. Yeah,
I'm seeing everybody and behind you nodding their heads. So your team here tonight are agreeing with you and not, which is great. You'll always have my support. So thank you.
Gene?
Yep, just 3 questions from me. First of all, I want to thank you for coming in tonight. Thank you for your service to the town. As the other council said, we really appreciate it. First question is just, it seemed like counterintuitive to me, but in looking at one of your graphs, is it the case where we had fewer mutual aid calls in 2025 and handled more of our own EMS calls in 2025?
Yeah.
Even with the fewer ambulances?
Yeah, it's gone up and down. I think in 2025, we're running the 3rd ambulance. I think part of that caught part of the year where we didn't staff it. And that probably caused a little bit of a spike in last year. I remember that was in July, I think we stopped staffing it.
The first 6 months of that.
Yeah, so there was a period of time where we had a bit of a spike, yeah. That's probably attributed to that.
Okay. Second question is, how is the price set for EMS services?
It's set by you guys. So we have a billing agency, we use Comstar. What Comstar does for us is they handle all of our billing. So when we generate an ambulance run report, we gather the insurance information and various information we need to bill the call. It's sent to them, and then they provide us back with a report of our revenue coming back from that. And every year, they give us a dollar amount of what departments and ambulance services in our region are charging. And we try and stay in the top 50. And we've been doing that for the past 5 or 6 years, I think. So we come in front of you probably in a couple of months to adjust the rate by a few bucks. And then that's really where it's at.
Oh, interesting. Okay, good to know. All right, and the last question is, I heard you mention when you were talking about Medway that they're doing a large development. Can you let us know how you view the impact of additional, because frankly has some new large developments, high-density housing developments. How does the fire department view that, the incoming new developments, and how you're going to handle that, and what you might see as a result of that?
Well, really, for us, we see a lot of increase. If the development is residential, it's not more really impactful than if it was a neighborhood with the same kind of density. We would see the same kind of call volume. We really see a large increase in volume is in over 55. I think of those 4,000 ambulance runs, just about, of our 2,800 transports, probably better than 1,500 of those were from our over 55 occupancies, 485, East Central, or a 4 Chill, the assisted living facilities, they do tax us a lot more. But as far as like an apartment complex, I think like Woodview Way was probably 80 calls, but if you divided Woodview Way up by a neighborhood, it would probably be roughly the same. It really, and there are some here where we don't go. We don't go to Dean Ave as often as we do Woodview Way. So it's impossible to really say exactly what any one development will bring in for calls, but for sure, if it's an over 55, we'll see an increased call volume in there.
Okay. All right, no further questions for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you guys for all coming. You guys do a great job. There's a lot of you guys that train up at the academy. You guys are teachers. That goes to show, how
Both these guys are up there.
Yeah.
Training
And
recruits.
Tommy
Yep.
teaches up there
Yes.
too. So, it goes to show you. I'd advise everybody in here, I did it when I went into a burning building up in Milford with them and threw on the gear and went in just to, you can't believe how heavy that is. And to go in, just to see what these guys do when they go in. They took me into a fire.
It's a lot of fun. I know Jamie did it.
Jamie did it with me. I was shocked.
Exhilarating. I wanted to get to the third floor. It was
Yeah.
really awesome, and it
Yeah.
does show you how heavy the gear is and
How
how
quick you-
knowledgeable people have to be,
And
right? Because
how quick you lose your ear, if you don't know what you're doing and stuff like that, so I advise anybody to do that if you do it again. When you were battalion chief, you responded to my broken neck, you're the one that made me go to the hospital. I wasn't gonna go.
I'm glad you went. I'm glad you went.
It's you we have to thank.
Yeah, and my wife told me not to go, but I don't know what that. Anyway, no, you guys do a great job. Love you guys, always do.
Thank you. Got anything?
Okay, boy.
Should we go to extend? I think we're probably gonna go. It's
4 hour.
4 hours, right? 4 hours. So we're good, right? It was 4 hours, we changed, yeah, you changed, yeah.
Because I knew this would be.
Yeah, right, I remember that, Mike, now it's bringing it back.
That's why you changed it, it doesn't have to start at 6.
Yeah.
So before we start, let me get this straight. I'm not up against a 35-minute
No.
time clock at 10 o'clock?
No, yes, you are. No, yes, you want to be.
We can make that.
No, but yes.
No, I'm well aware of the time.
You're all set to go? He just went to bathroom, he'll be back.
He can catch him.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, and for everybody at home, if they don't know, my name is TJ Lynch. I'm your police chief. I'm accompanied by Deputy Chief Jim West, and similar to what you just heard from the fire department, we're just going to kind of give you a rundown of where we've been, where we are, where we'd like to see us go for the police department in the future.
All right, I'll kick it off with some of the history. In doing some research for this presentation, we came across this document, which I thought was interesting. It was written in 1977 by then Chief Arthur Pellegrini. And just to highlight some of the things in the document, the expenses in 1875 was $301 was the total budget for the police department. In 1886, one officer served 11 months in which he was paid $550. And the total yearly expense in 1886 was $803.29. In 1889, there was 15 special police officers and several constables, and that's when the term cop became popular, which stood for Constables on Patrol, for those who didn't know that.
I didn't, but thank you.
Yeah. 1904, the budget is skyrocketed to a whopping $2,050. In 1907, we had 3 full-time officers and 20 special officers. And in 1914, we increased to 40 special officers. The last paragraph here, well, 1977, when he wrote this, there was 28 sworn officers with 10 admin or support staff, 1 chief, 1 lieutenant, 7 sergeants, 19 officers, 1 admin assistant, 1 meter man, 4 matrons, and 4 dispatchers. In the last paragraph, I'll just read, it says, in view of the gradual growth of our local department, it is not difficult to predict the constant and necessary increase in personnel, equipment, and training essential to the protection and assistance of the residents of the town of Franklin. Future historians will no doubt one day refer to the, quote, old days of the 70s in the Franklin Police Department's history. So here we are, 50 years later, talking about the 70s. So I just thought that was an interesting tidbit. Another thing I found was, Officer Frankie's here in the back, but I didn't know this, but this is not the first Officer Frankie that the town of Franklin has. The first Officer Frankie was a VW Bug in 1986. So we found these old pictures, so.
Officer Bucky ran that one, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. So just some fun stuff to start things off. Our current department, it's a photograph taken a few years ago. Our mission statement, our vision statement, I won't read it, but it's included in your packet. It is on our website. Current staffing today, we have 56 sworn officers, 2 administrative assistants, 1 for records and 1 for finance, and 3 mental health clinicians. This is our current organizational chart. I know it's hard to read. I'm going to blow it up here in a second so you can see each division. We'll start at the top with the Office of the Chief of Police. Obviously, everybody knows Chief Lynch, who provides the overall leadership and direction for the department, develops policies and procedures, manages personnel, hiring, training, and discipline, develops and oversees the budget and resource allocation, and serves as the primary liaison between the police department, town officials, and the community. My job as deputy chief is to assist the chief in the daily operations of the department. I also act as the chief in his absence or when delegated. I'm the accreditation manager, so I'm responsible for all the policies and procedures and everything that goes along with being accredited. I handle internal affairs, so any complaints that come into the department, I make sure they're investigated thoroughly. And public information officer, and I have a great team that works all the social media and all that stuff behind the scenes. This section here is the Special Services Division. Each division, we're broken up into 3 divisions, by the way, Special Services, Operations, and Administration. Each division is led by a lieutenant. The Special Services Division is led by Lieutenant Eric Zimmerman. Some of the things that this division is responsible for, the first thing is all special events within the town. So any special event from the fireworks, the Harvest Festival, anything that we do, there's an operations plan that's developed. The lieutenant will reach out to the States Fusion Center to identify any threats that may be out there or any issues, develop a traffic plan, a response plan, contingency plans. Everything is prepared for, so if something should happen, we'll have a plan in place to handle it. The left side is the Criminal Investigations Unit, or the Detective Unit. That unit's led by 1 detective sergeant. There's 3 general detectives, 1 narcotics detective, 1 court prosecutor, and 1 task force officer assigned to that unit. They handle everything from narcotics investigations, property and evidence, the court prosecution, crime analysis, and victim witness liaison. The other unit assigned to this division is the Community Service Unit. Currently, we have 1 community service sergeant and 1 officer. That was 4, it was reduced last year to 2. So they handle all school resource officer responsibilities for all the schools within the town, emergency management, homeland security, juveniles and special populations, and crime prevention. The middle division here is the Operations Division. This is the most forward-facing division of the department. This is the officers that are out on patrol, you see in uniform and marked cars. It's led by Lieutenant Michael Kalecki, and assigned to that division are 7 patrol sergeants, 34 patrol officers, 1 clinician supervisor, and 2 clinicians. Those 34 patrol officers are split into 2 groups, the A group and the B group, 17 each, for the 4 on, 4 off. So 17 are on, 17 are off, and they rotate every 4 days. Responsibilities for this unit are obviously patrol, traffic enforcement, bicycle, K-9, warrant unit, armory, awards, fleet management, accident reconstruction. They have domestic violence follow-ups, problem-oriented policing, or the POP unit. What that is we don't have anybody assigned to that right now, but they'll handle anything that might be an issue that needs a little bit more investigation but hasn't really rise to the level of detective, community nuisance type things. They'll be able to dedicate the time to go out there and handle it. special officers, traffic control officers, clinicians, drone unit, motorcycle unit. And I skipped MetroLec. I just want to hit on that briefly, what MetroLec is. It's a regional team that is responsible. They have a bunch of different units within MetroLec, including SWAT, motorcycle unit, mountain bike unit, detective unit. They have a cybercrime or computer lab, command post, drone unit, and peer support unit. So we pay $5,000 a year to be a member of MetroLec, and we have to dedicate 10% of our staffing to be part of different units. And for that, we get all of these different resources should we need them. One example of one we just used was the funeral for the Uxbridge officer that we had in town. We had the support of command posts. We had 2 actually. We had the motorcycle units who were able to escort the buses of officers from the industrial park down to the funeral. We had drone units that were right outside of our command post that we could see operationally. You could see how the traffic was flowing, how everything was working from the air. And we had a SWAT QRF on standby just in case we needed it, because with that many officers in town, it's a target. So the cost to the town for that was 0. All those assets came in. The only thing we had to pay is any overtime for officers assigned, if they were assigned to one of those units, for those individual officers. But everybody else didn't cost us anything. Operations division, these charts here, on the chart on the left just talks about how many officers are scheduled per hour. You'll see it starts at midnight at the top. We have 9 officers scheduled, and it goes all the way down, you'll see, to 11 o'clock at night. And the third column is the minimum that we will drop to before we have to hire overtime. So it's a minimum staffing. So if there's 9 scheduled, 4 could take it off before we get down to minimum. The last column, anything in green, means we have at least 2 officers over the minimum, is where we want to be. And anything in yellow means we're below that. We only have 1 officer before we have to create overtime. The bar graph on the right just shows anything in red is the number of officers scheduled per hour, and the blue is how many sergeants scheduled per hour. You will see there they're a little heavier in the evening for patrol officers. That's when more calls typically will happen, or more serious type calls, people coming home from work. And also during the day shift, the shift is augmented a little bit with like command staff is around, detectives are around, community service officers around, so we can assist during the daytime as well if needed. Here's some graph of just some crime trends. You can see through the years 2025, I'll just use the last year, we had 25,377 calls for service, which represented an increase of 3.62%. And then just we broke down some of the different types of calls: accidents, assaults, larcenies, domestics, and mental health related calls. And the percentage increase there. We talk about traffic enforcement. In 2022, we were able to increase our traffic enforcement and the number of car stops by 30%. 2023, it increased 93%. 2024, we did drop. We had a reduction in the patrol division. We had 4 officers retired or resigned due to other employment. So staffing went down in 2024. And then in 2025, we got those officers back, and we increased traffic enforcement by 27.5%. And those are the numbers of all the car stops there in the chart. Thank you. The average stop, if you look at the number in 2025, was 12 car stops per day. The mental health program, clinician program, some of the numbers that the clinicians are responding to. 2025, they responded to a total of they had 948 interventions. 44 of those were arrest diversions, which means they could have been arrested, but the clinicians determined that, other services were better for that particular person instead of an arrest, which is really what we want. And then the last one, 142 of those were emergency room diversions, where we may have Section 12 them or sent them to the emergency room, and the clinicians worked with them and with the families to get them services in diversion programs. Use of force data in 2025, those are all the use of forces we had. We had 12. Out of the 12, 3 of them were hands-on physical restraints, 4 firearms displays, 4 taser either uses or displays, and 1 restraint chair. For those who don't know what the restraint chair is, it's a chair in our cell block. If someone's, possibility of creating self-harm to themselves, we don't have the luxury of a padded cell. We have to put them in this restraint chair, which is soft restraints, put them in a chair, and they're secured without, they're softer restraints and they can't hurt themselves. 2026 so far, we've had 3 uses of force, 1 physical hands-on, 1 firearm display, and 1 taser deployment. All this data, by the way, is on our website, and we keep it updated. And finally, the administrative division is led by Lieutenant Jason Riley. Within that division, there's 1 administrative officer who assists with firearm licensing and accreditation and solicitor permits. We also have assistant for finance and assistant for records, handle all public records requests that we get through the department. Some of the things that this division is responsible for is facilities management, budget and payroll, details and traffic officers, communications, purchasing, firearms licensing, scheduling, grant management, records, information technology, training, and recruitment.
Okay, my turn. I get the fun stuff, budget.
I'll leave that to him.
Department staffing, history, number of sworn officers. This goes, it's 5-year increments starting in 1990, where we were at 31. Happens to be the same year that we moved, or 1991, we moved into the current police station on 911 Panther Way. 1995, 1 year before I started, we were at 32. I've talked about it a lot, that in the year 2000, we were at our top 50 and budgeted for 54, but never got there. And then you see the slow decline that occurred 5 years later. In 2005, we're at 47, 2010, 46. When I took over as a chief of police on July 1st of 2016, we were still at 46. We ended up increasing in 2020 to 54, which actually means it took 20 years to actually get to where we were budgeted for 20 years previously. In 2025, we had 58, and obviously today we lost 2, so we're at 56. These are comparisons. So here's the thing. How do you know your police department's doing a good job? Well, we're in the top 10 safest communities in the United States of America almost every year for a community or city over the 25,000 residents. So that's one metric, so you can go with that. We're accredited, so you know that there's something there. People, you can talk to people, you can look at the community, National Community Survey, public safety, both fire and police did very well. But how are we, as we compare to other communities? So on the left-hand side, you'll see the name of the community. We didn't just pick these out of a hat. These communities are one of the 18 that the GovHR study that the town did for when it came to pay for non-union employees. They used 8 different matrix to basically come up with the most similar communities to the town of Franklin. These are also the same communities that are used by our Human Resources Department when they do collective bargaining comparisons. So you basically see what the different departments have. This is all 2025 data as well, fiscal year 25, what the data is. So the average for these agencies in police for police is 61.5, with the median being 59. This is their budgets. So these are the same communities, fiscal year 25. Again, the same communities on the left, what their populations are, the community's total budget, which includes everything that they have for a budget, and then the police budget. To make sure it's an apples-to-apples comparison, if the community, such as Braintree, has a harbor master, I pulled that out, because we don't have a harbor master. If animal control was in their police budget, I pulled that out, because animal control's in its own budget. If they paid for their cruises out of their expenses, I pulled it out, because our cruises come and are paid through the capital program. If they had dispatchers, because ours are with, we have the MEC, I pulled it out. There's the numbers. So the average of those communities, their budget in fiscal year '25 was 8.9 million. We're 1.6 million below the average. If you want to take the median, it was 8.5. We're 1.25 below the median. So I think it's been said, the market basket?
More for your dollar.
More for your dollar. We're being named as one of the top safest communities in the country on a regular basis and meeting a whole bunch of other metrics, and we're doing it for less money and with less people. So I tell you right now that every single person that works for our department is second to none. Some of the best professionals that there are. Back in the mid-'90s and 2000s, we were basically probably in the middle to the upper third for pay when compared to similar communities. These are the same communities. This is a patrol officer top step salary, and you'll see that Franklin is second from the bottom. And there is your average, there's your median, and there is the percentage of the difference to get us to the average or the median. And these are our sergeants, our supervisors, our first line that are out there making sure that everything gets done the way it needs to be. Indispensable, and they're dead last. This is just an example of 5 years of our budget over the last 5 years, fiscal years '23 through '27. There's been some increases here and there, like in fiscal year '24 when we ended up going from 54 to 58. You look at fiscal year '27, we're looking at a $7.9 million total budget. It is a salary increase of 7.89% or a total increase of 7.5%, but that budget is level service +2. We put in to look, we want the restoration of the 2 offices that we lost, which caused us to eliminate the 2 positions in the community service unit. The far right column is what the budget would be if the 2 officers were not restored and we were just to be level service. I'm not going to go through all these in the interest of time. This is just any accomplishments or achievements that the department has been able to do in basically the last 9 years, from fiscal year '17 today. All of these you will find in the fiscal year '17 through '26, either budget narratives or annual reports. Just some of the highlights. You know, there was a lot of things when we ended up in fiscal year '17 that we had, like the evidence room project, and how we ended up having to go through 3,000 pieces of evidence and got rid of a majority of them to get us down to 300. It just had never been a real audit of what it needed to be. And we redid the entire evidence room at that time. Same issues with the Law Enforcement Trust Fund project, where we were commingling basically cash that was taken in as evidence, as well as the money that we were granted by the DA's office and a judge that we could use towards anything that the department would need. We improved customer service. We began the process of diversifying the sworn officer complement. When I became the chief in 2016, we had 46 male officers, 0 females. Happy to say that we now have 6 female officers on the department. In fiscal year '18 is when we originally ended up establishing the jail diversion program. We were in a regional with Medway. It just got to the point that we just needed more services. We needed more of them to be able to do what we needed to do. And like I said, I've mentioned it plenty of times, Jamie had the great idea to use some of the American Recovery Plan Act money, because as long as it went towards something that benefited the entire community, and although we did a lot of infrastructure projects, We also ended up getting the county commissioners to give us almost, $950,000 to do a 3-year pilot with 3 co-response clinicians, which is what we've been able to do. In 2019, we had the new schedule for the patrol division. Essentially, we were given, when I became the chief, we came in on the 10-yard line as we were moving in to go to the MEC. And there was a lot of unknowns, and there was a lot of things, just a lot of information that hadn't really gotten to town administrator at the time, Jeff Nunning, and everything else about what dispatchers actually do beyond using a phone and, using the radio and answering the phone. There was a contemplation of us going dark. So when you came to the police station anytime, day or night, when you got to the front door, you could walk in and you'd be in a vestibule, but the second door would be locked. You wouldn't actually be able to access the station. We did a study, and there were 65 people on a Tuesday that would walk into the police station. We're just too big for that. It was just, and I don't think the people in Franklin, the residents and the taxpayers, would have liked to have a locked building when they came to their police station. For all those different reasons, we worked with the unions. It wasn't easy, but we finally went across the finish line. There was a lot of people, I don't think, they were nervous about going to a new schedule, a 4 on, 4 off, 10-hour schedule. I think if I had told them that we were going to get rid of it and go back to the 4 and 2, 8, I wouldn't make it out of the parking lot. It just wouldn't happen. But it worked for us, and with the savings in overtime for training and some other things, we were able to add 5 additional, police officers at that time, increasing our numbers, which is something we hadn't done in a number of years. And like I said, I'm not going to belabor it. You can read it. There's plenty of different things that, we have done over the years. Current challenges. The police station. Everybody in town should know that we've been advocating for a new facility. It was built in '91. It was built for 31, police officers, maybe for a little, for a few more, this and that. We are well above what that number is. We have, space-restricted workspaces, overburdened evidence and storage areas, insufficient training and meeting spaces, locker rooms and fitness facilities that are completely undersized for how big we are, and parking and security challenges. Anybody that's been on a tour through the station, and it was pretty much, it wasn't as many as we would have liked, and you can go on to the police station website, and you can see all, we've done a video of everything with a voiceover by me, Steve, thank you very much. So it's there and available for you to be able to go through it without physically going there, but feel free to come by. They all say the same thing. Yes, you are lacking the space that you need, you're crammed in there. And then the question becomes, how are we going to pay for it? So, get it. We understand that. But it's a problem that's not going to go away. And it's a problem that eventually is going to have to be solved because it's going to affect things, it's going to affect many things down the road. Hiring. We're dealing with a lack of interest in a career in law enforcement profession. Younger people are just not as interested in becoming police officers as they once were. Like when I took the civil service exam, there were, tens of thousands of people that would end up taking that type of exam to try to get in. Everybody, there was a vast number of people that want to be police. There's been a lot of things that have changed. We can't work from home right now. We'll probably never be able to work from home. And that's what a lot of people aspire to do. There's all different kinds of things, but there's a lack of general interest. Quality of the candidates. Those that are interested in it, a lot of them are not qualified to do it. They're just people that, no way. And I'm not going to lower the standards for the department. And I don't think any of the people that work for the department would like to see that happen either. And I don't think you or the public or anyone else. So it's hard. And then a lack of interest in the FPD by transfer candidates. I just showed you what they're being paid.
That's why.
So why would somebody want, literally, why would they want to come here if they can make $8,000, $10,000 working somewhere else? And then, of course, the current police station not being what it is. So our schedule's great, and it's been a windfall for us, I think, to be able to get people to come. But as the pay discrepancy continues to advance, and we're in an antiquated facility, it makes it hard, which all comes to retention. How do you keep them? I'm not seeing a groundswell of people leaving, but as that divide continues to grow, you know, it's not lost that we had an officer transfer to another community. He did not transfer because of the pay. He transferred because he was given an opportunity that was too good to give up, and I told him he was crazy not to take it. But the community he went to, he's making $10,000 more for putting his pants on, showing up to work. It's just a reality. Budget constraints. The reduction in sworn officer personnel, as we talked about it, we lost 2 people last year, the beginning of this fiscal year. The reduction or elimination of the co-response program. That grant's going to run out in December of 2026, the end of December. The previous council already voted to utilize opioid settlement money to carry it through the entirety of fiscal '27. But I don't believe the opioid settlement money will be to the level that it would need to be able to fund all 3 for a full year. And I would advocate tremendously that we do everything we can to keep the 3 clinicians that we, currently budgeted for, with the use of the ARPA money. Inadequate technology funding. I get this question all the time. Body cameras. People ask, body cameras, do you want body cameras? Why don't we have body cameras? It's not mandated by the state. The state has grants for it, which will pay for the hardware, and that's it. So, it's like you'll get the body cameras. What people don't realize is how much the storage costs. You're talking 30 days of storage for 58 employees that every time they go out in the public, make a car stop, have any interaction, have to record it. If that particular incident is something with criminal action that might occur or whatever, you now have to keep it indefinitely until the case is completely done. Storage is extremely expensive. So it's like your printer at home. I've mentioned it before. They'll give you the printer for almost nothing, and the ink will last a month. And then when you go to buy more ink, it's more than what you paid for the printer. You might as well just buy a new printer. That's what this all is about, the storage. And then you need someone to manage it all. Anything to do with the domestic violence case, you have to blur out the face and you have to take out any audio that basically would identify who the person is. And with our very liberal public records law in the state of Massachusetts, anyone can ask for it and we have to give it to them unless it's involved in an active case or something like that. Between the DA's office, the defense attorneys, and people who just want to watch Franklin cops and not cops on, local TV, that is a huge, it's a challenge that, we're just not gonna, you can't afford it. We can't afford it. And I want personnel over body cameras. You saw our use of force numbers, so when you do a cost benefits analysis, it becomes more, it would be great to have them, but not at the detriment of me having to lose, sworn officers to be able to pay for it. But there will be a time, even though we don't have a lot of use of force incident that one of these, there'll be an incident where our officer is in a dark alley all alone with a suspect, something happens, and the next thing you know, there's an accusation related to that, and we don't have camera footage to basically back it up. And it's great for complaints as well, not that we get a lot of complaints, because we don't. But when someone ends up coming in saying, hey, I want to complain about the officer, he or she was rude, they did this, they did that, they were wearing a body camera. Out the door they go. So it would be great to have them, it's just not for the expense that we may end up losing, officers. All right, it was asked by the Finance Committee what the perfect department. So where would we want to be? So we basically, back of envelope, spitballed it, because it's never going to happen anytime soon, so what's the sense of going into massive detail to it, but 68 total employees. It would be 62 sworn. We would add 1 lieutenant, 1 sergeant, and 2 officers that would do traffic and what we talked about, the problem-oriented policing. Why the rank? Because when we were at 46 and we went to 58, that's 12 officers that we were able to hire. We haven't added a single rank. Our span of control is getting out of whack, and we'd like to fix that. I've also included 3 civilian, we would go up to 3 civilian employees instead of just having someone in finance, and someone in records. It would be the addition of somebody that would split their time between IT and crime analysis. Tim and his folks do a great job, but he changes people faster than we do. I've hired 44 police officers in the last 9.5 years. He's gone through a number of different people as well, and they're doing the whole town, the schools, the municipal side, you name it. With the technology that we're using, I bet you the fire department would be in the same boat as well. You know, IT it's always you need somebody to be able to do it. And of course, the 3 mental health clinicians, that we would be able to fund all 3 of them and keep it at that. So the next question is, what did it cost? Be about $950,000 in salaries. And if you want us to get all the stuff that we got in capital right now back into the operations budget, we need $500,000. So that's $1.5 million. It's interesting too that if we did all that, we'd be at the average. And imagine what we could do with the added personnel and everything else. Just throwing it out there. As Deputy said, there's our website. It's chock full of information. I would, if you ever want to know something or you're interested in something about the police department, check out the website first. It's a good chance you're going to find the information you might be looking for. If you can't, then by all means, call my office, and I'll be more than happy to. And this goes for everybody, public included. And lastly, I just wanted, I said it before, but I do have a number of the officers here today. If you're with the department and you're sitting down, please stand up. This is just a sampling of the men and women that work for the department. They work for you. As I said before, they're the best of the best. Just as Chuck said, I'd love to be able to pay them what they deserve. They don't deserve to be in the bottom where they're at. And don't know what the answer to it is. That's your kind of issue, I guess. But just wanted to make sure that they're recognized. Like I said, I wouldn't trade a single one of them, and I think that we're as good, if not better, than any other department in the Commonwealth because of their work. Fire away.
Councilor Malloy?
No pun intended.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right, yeah, please don't.
Thanks, Chief, and thanks, everybody.
Very welcome.
You guys are the best. Couple of questions. The funding for the clinicians, can you go over that again?
All right, so the American Recovery Plan Act, part of like the stimulus due to COVID.
Yeah, so we had the CARES Act money, which was right at COVID, and then
I'm
it's-
sorry, just to save you time, I get that, I know what that is.
I'm sorry.
When does it expire?
Oh.
And
Halfway through fiscal '27 or December 31st of 2026.
This coming fiscal
so
year.
this year, so
So half the
halfway
fiscal-
into fiscal '27,
6 months.
is there funding?
Yeah, the previous council,
That's what I thought I heard you say.
yes, they
okay.
ended up taking, so there's opioid settlement money.
Okay.
And it's only certain things you can use the opioid settlement money towards, and one of the first ones is clinicians, co-response programs, JPPs, which is a perfect use for it.
Okay.
The money that's in there now, at the time that they voted to do it, there was enough to fund all 3 of them through the end of fiscal '27. So we're good for fiscal '27.
That's what
And
I wanted to
believe that-
clarify.
Yeah, and a portion, if not all, the opioid money from that point would still go to fund the co-response program.
Yeah, so about, in FY '28, about 1/3, maybe to about 50% of those 3 clinicians will be able to be funded through the opioid settlement money, because even though right now we've got about 1/3 of it allocated, I know there are other lawsuits that are gonna come in that are gonna continue to give some additional small revenue. So I would guess in a best-case scenario, you're looking at about 50% of the cost of that division will be paid for through opioid settlement money in FY '28, and then for probably 15 years until that money runs out. I think it goes for about another decade and a half.
Oh, wow, that long,
So it
okay.
goes for a long time, yeah.
Thank you. I thought that's what I heard you say. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that because I didn't see it in the fiscal '27 budget called out specifically. I saw the offsets for the employees and so forth, but I wasn't sure what happened afterwards. Thinking ahead to '28, and I wasn't sure how far that went into '27. In the crime trends chart that you have, Can you talk about the 2025 mental health-related category at 948 versus 369 just a couple of years ago? Kind of what constitutes mental health-related calls, and do you see, I mean, that's a big jump over the last couple of years.
It's basically the number of calls that the clinicians are actually either responding to directly or they've done a follow-up with. So like if they're even with 3 of them, they're not on 24/7.
Right.
So when they're not on and the officers end up encountering somebody that's having a mental health issue, they will then end up, giving the report to the clinicians so that they can end up doing a follow-up to try to end up getting the person outpatient services if it's needed or, something like that. I mean, that's basically what, they're touching and talking and dealing with somebody for every one of those numbers.
And prior to having those clinicians, what would happen in those cases? Did nobody speak to those people? They just got arrested?
No, we would go on the calls, but for instance, the reason the emergency room diversions have gone down is because we're not trained to make a determination if somebody is serious about or would have in their minds that they're actually going to harm themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lie. What do? We take them to the hospital.
Right.
And usually they're back running around in the community before the officer's even done doing any of the paperwork.
And maybe what you just said clarifies it a little bit, but because I've noticed the same with the ambulance calls. I mean, the 4,000 ambulance calls, I don't know how many of those, the calls that we're talking about here require an ambulance transport. So I just wondered if they were somehow kind of related.
If they're going to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
But if they end up doing an assessment with the individual on scene, and they make a determination that the person is not harming themselves and they don't need to go to the hospital, then there's no need to call.
Then you diffuse it. Okay, got it, okay.
And it's gone up because COVID, the whole COVID pandemic was awful when it came to individuals that might have any kind of anxiety, things related to that, the isolation. I mean, it really caused a lot of people a lot of difficulties. I mean, even people that don't have, I guess, like, just, treatable mental health. I mean, it was all a burden on everyone.
Right.
But for some people, it was a lot worse. And we just, tremendous spike, after that. And we're still going through it today.
I'm guessing you don't see that ending anytime soon?
No.
Okay. A couple of other minor questions, but for the sake of time, I'll just drop it there. So, thank you.
Okay.
Just one question. One question, it might be straightforward, because I think you actually addressed a lot of it. I just want to, in your comments, I just want to give you a little chance to speak to it more directly. Point out the fact that Franklin gets very strong ratings for safety and for all the good work that you all do, and that we generally are getting more for our money, and have been doing that historically. And then you also point out the requests and needs, what an ideal department would look like. But I think the question has to be asked, sorry, I don't know if it has to be asked. I think some people might ask the question, why shouldn't we just keep doing what we're doing? If we're getting all this bang for our buck, and it's working out, why can't we just stay where we are?
And I would answer, then talk to your peers who are complaining all the time about the fact that traffic is terrible in their neighborhood, or any number, or the mental health related calls for service that are going up, things like that. It's just, we're able to do what we're able to do, but we're at that point where we're not going to be able to do anymore. We've already seen what happened with the decrease that we had with just the 2 officers. I will never advocate for going below 34 patrol officers in the patrol division. It's a necessity for the call for service volume. You saw the minimums, where they were at. I mean, on the overnight, there's 4 police officers and a supervisor for the entire 27 and a half square miles. That's what we have right now. even going down, but it's not a, and again, those metrics, it's great to be acknowledged that we're one of the safest communities, but what the insurance companies that end up putting that together, they were looking at 6 NIBRS, matrix. One's murder, one's rape, one's aggravated assault, there are 2 property, I can't think of the other ones, and there's 2 property crimes, which is usually where we end up coming in there. But that's not capturing all the other stuff that the department has that we're dealing with, whether it be in the schools with the limited SROs that we have, whether it be, all the mental health related issues, any other, crimes that they're investigating or coming across, the motor vehicle accidents, things like that. It's not capturing any of that. It's great that, violent crime-wise, we're doing real well. But it's not capturing everything.
And I think I would probably add to that's all based on where we are today. And as we, and if we're not able to keep up, even with the level of funding that we've had, if we're not able to continue to grow it at least on a commensurate level, there is a real possibility that we'd see that there would be an impact to your ability to keep us safe.
Oh, absolutely, and part of the thing isn't that, like, people were asking for the pie in the sky, like where we'd like to be. Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
But it's also, part of this whole exercise was, we need to stay where we are. We need to get to 2 offices back, we need to be at 58 and somehow stay where we're at. People also ask about the police station. Do we need it? Absolutely. Do we need to solve the structural budget deficit affecting the operations budget for the town? Absolutely. Is the town of Franklin going to give both a Prop 2.5 override, if it's what we come up with, because it's a simple thing. We need more revenue, or we're gonna cut services. So all the other stuff is noise. Revenue?
Right.
Or we're cutting services. It is what it is. The rest is noise. So and how are we gonna get revenue? Well, whether it be a Prop 2.5 or not. If they were to vote for it, are we getting a $47 million debt exclusion anytime after that, soon, to get a new police station? No. So I'd rather stay in the cramped building that we're in, with 58, or our total, sworn and unsworn, right where we were at the end of fiscal '25, and basically stay where we're at, then go to a new shiny police station, wherever it might be, with 50 sworn officers and 1 civilian. Because it's 5 years later, and all we did was cut. We have to cut more, and have to cut more. But this exercise was, give us back what we need, what we had, and then if we can stay at that, I think we'll be fine.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's an excellent exercise. I appreciate it.
No, I'm just...
It's helpful to have that context. And it's really helpful to hear you, speak to why, the focus is on the personnel as opposed to the stuff. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank all of you very much for all the work you do and at the level we have been able to afford to pay you for it. So, also I was going to make the same comment that Councilor Ojukwu made about how there is, the narrative is you're getting so much bang for your buck, right? We're doing so many great things with so little money. I feel like that is 100% true, and also I don't want to hear it as much because I think it then spins the story that we don't have to change anything. To Councilor Ojukwu's point, that's, and what you just said is that's not the case. We do have to change this. I appreciate the comments that you made a minute ago about kind of boiling it down to what actually will solve things. And the bottom line is we need more money for all of you, for the fire department, for the schools, for every department in town. But I also really appreciate that you kind of clarified where you see the importance, whether it's that structural deficit that has to be addressed through probably an override vote down the line, or the police station, because I know that is a big sticking point with the community, is that, in the last couple of years when we had this conversation about overrides, the conversation about the needed police station has also come up at the same time. And I think that that has led to a lot of, just complications in people's thinking about where they want to invest the money. So I appreciate that you kind of specifying, hey, we need to do this first. And I had a question, and I have forgotten it. So if I think of it, I will come back. But bottom line, I wanted to say thank you, and we do appreciate everything you do, and we would love to figure out how to fix things moving forward. Oh, I do remember, actually. Thank you. I just had to talk long enough to get back to it. The two police officers, and you've mentioned this many times. I want to come back to it just because, again, if people are listening, I want it to be said again. The two police officers that we cut last year, I know that they were not terminations because they were open positions that weren't filled, and then people were reassigned, correct?
That is correct.
And those were the two community service members that were moved. So that was, there were a lot of things that came up in the last year that the town felt we lost because of the reassignments of those two officers. And if you don't mind, just could you speak on that a little bit, just so that anyone, again, who is listening could hear again why some of those things were lost and what some of those things were. So I know, I'll let you speak to it, but like Halloween party, SROs, things like that.
All right, so in 2024, Jamie and I had a long talk, and he basically offered me 2 officers. And I said, nope, I need 4. And he said, why? And I said, because I need to augment the patrol division to get it to where it needs to be at 34 officers, 34 patrol officers. So we got them. And it definitely needed, stop the onslaught of ordering. So when we go below that minimum and no one wants to volunteer to work, you have to order. We can't close a section of town off like a restaurant and say, nope, that's closed, we're just not gonna police that area tonight, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that. So we have to order. So when it came down to, you're gonna be cut $250,000 if that's what the town council has to do. I made it perfectly clear during every listening session and everything else exactly what was gonna happen if we were cut $250,000. We would be cutting $210,000, and the benefits budget in the town would be cut $40,000. And I said that would mean that we would need to transfer 2 officers from the community service unit into patrol to augment that. Yes, we were lucky that we kind of saw the writing on the wall might happen. We had an open position. I didn't fill it. The previous individual I talked about who went to another community on a too good to not take it thing, he left middle of June. Otherwise, Jalen Samuels would have came out of the academy on June 20th, worked for us for 10 days, and got laid off. So we avoided that, which was great. But we transferred the 2. David Gove is here, Amanda is here. They were also the handlers for Ben Franklin and Frankie. And they were school resource officers, as they are when they were in the community service unit. They weren't, they good soldiers, they did what they had to do and all that, but, it was very unfortunate. You can't have a unit with 4 people in it, cut it by 50%, and expect them to still do the job that the 4 of them were doing. That's idiocy. Just can't happen. So what ended up happening? Yes, there were things that were removed, they were basically canceled, eliminated, or reduced. And one of the things that was eliminated, and everybody talked about it, which is a complete fallacy that was out there. I'm not a social media person, so I'm not gonna go on social media and debate it and this and that. There was a thought that we were doing it, some thought we were doing it just to, get back at the public because they didn't do the override. That's ridiculous. Others thought we were doing it because we didn't have the money. That wasn't true either. We had the money, and I'm sure a majority of the people that are in this room, if they could have, because they weren't working, would have volunteered to do it as they always have. There's no question in my mind. The problem was I had 4 people normally would do all the work to plan for 2,500 kids and their parents to come down to the police station on the day we do it. And now I'm going to ask 2 of them to do that while a historic redistricting of our public schools occurred a month and a half previous. We had kids getting on the wrong bus. We had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And 2 people that were responsible primarily for that. Yes, the patrol division augments when the SROs can't do it. That is the only reason. It was not fair to have those 2 do the work that the 4 of them had done. To plan that kind of meeting and everything, to plan that kind of event with all that goes into it, they just couldn't do it. We canceled the majority of our internships with, Dean College, Tri-County. They did do the senior project because they came to me and said, we're gonna put in the effort. And I, we'll be able to do it. I said, okay. There were a number, car seat installations probably suffered, but we did have a number of patrol officers that were trained to do it, so they kind of picked up the slack. There was no more leadership camp down at, again, those 4 were scheduled to be there because the schools were closed for that entire week. Those are the reasons, and those are the things that occurred.
Thank you. I think this is probably the 3rd or 4th or maybe 5th time I've heard you, enumerate those things. But again, I wanted it to be heard because while you have to shift things around for, to keep Franklin as safe as it is, those are the things that necessarily have to be cut, and those are things that are being felt, and I feel like that is, the residents need to kind of hear and understand why that is being done. So thank you for listening out again. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Karen. Mike?
Okay. First of all, as it relates to the potentially 2 additional officers, my stance on that, which is I want to add them, and I think hopefully the rest of the council heard when the finance committee was talking. It's going to take free cash to do that, to add those back, so I think they're important, so I hope everyone else supports that. You made a mention tonight that we're in the top 10 in safe. We're better than that. We're in the top 2. And actually, my question to you is we were top 1 and we lost that. How the heck do we get back to top 1? What do we got to do to get to 1?
Again, it's
I want
all-
to kick
it's
Lehigh,
Niagara's data.
Colorado. I was looking, we're here, I'm looking it up.
Take a trip to Colorado and do something at upstate Niagara.
How do we kick them out of number 1 and get back there? We were there for 2 years and they took it over for the last 2. Seriously, how do we get back to number 1?
I don't know.
What is it?
All you need is one incident, like something big, a homicide. We don't have a homicide, very often in Franklin. It's very few and far. And when we do, it's usually family related, this and that. It doesn't mean the community's any safer than it was. Like the last one that we had. It wasn't a stranger type thing or anything like that. But it ebbs and flows. It's just how often are you there?
Yeah.
It kind of shows the type of community you have, and like I said, we've historically been ranked somewhere in there.
Yeah, no, we're doing better than top 10. We are, and I
Well, I didn't want to gloat, but.
No, I know you should. You should. You should. All of you out there should. You said that it's, I think, 4 on, 4 off for staffing. From a day shift standpoint, like a similar question, what are the shifts? Is it 8, 8, 8, 12 and 12? Like during the day, when they're rotating through, how does the
6 A to
schedule?
4. You mean the shifts? The
Yeah, the actual shifts during that day. So I'm coming out, I'm working from 8 to 4.
It's,
and then
6A to 4P.
Okay.
4P to 2A. 11A to 9P. And then 9P to 7A.
Okay, so a whole
Did I
bunch
get
of
that
different
right?
combinations in there. Okay.
I'm working at 5 and 2. 7 to 3. So,
Okay.
yeah, there was a 1 to 11. 1 a.m. to 11 in the morning.
Who the heck gets that shift?
Usually it's the people that come on, that new to the department. I always wanted to get rid of it, just never had the numbers to, and then finally, because that yellow section was a lot less when we had the 1 to 11 because of the overlaps. It's more now, but it was a complete wellness thing. I mean, it was basically torturing them, especially if you have children. It's almost impossible. And on top of it, when we would cut 2 officers, there wasn't new people coming on. So the people that were on that shift had been on there for a very long time, and they were actively looking for other employment.
Okay. A little bit of high tech. I agree with you when it comes to body cameras. It's about storage. You're absolutely right. I mean, your printer analogy couldn't be more accurate. Do the cars themselves have cameras in the car?
No.
No, so no cameras. Do you see a time where drones and stuff like that, policing is a very personal, physical, like fire is, but is there technology that's out there that in the future, drones and other things can replace some of that policing in and of itself.
I mean, we utilize drones. I don't know if it'll ever get to the point, you know, there are some communities, not so much in Massachusetts, I think, but, you know, the West Coast, I think, that are actually using drones as like first response, and they're flying them. I don't know how, I mean, part of the thing was, I think they're giving dispensations now where they usually you had to be able to see, you had to be
Line
in
of sight,
line of
right.
sight with the drone. If you're gonna fly it off the top of the station and the desk officer is basically taking off to the mall, you really don't have that line of sight. At some point, I think that might happen. But the best drones, we can't even buy anymore because the federal government, you know, because, I don't know, if there's like listening devices from the Chinese government or whatever else, but, so they're gonna have to get a little bit better, you know, with the current, you know, the stuff that's available. But at some point, I think, no, there is a huge thing for technology, but come down to the station and look at our technology room. It's a closet,
Yeah.
and it's already jam-packed. And again, we're looking at all these different things, and no IT, you know, limited IT, you know, so it's like you want to do some of this stuff, but you got to have the infrastructure, you know, beforehand to be able to do
Yeah.
it.
And I guess the only other thing, and some people could look at it as controversial, are like flock cameras and cameras throughout the community doing license plate reading, is,
That the ACLU thing is it's completely inaccurate. It is 100% inaccurate. Maybe not for certain communities that decide to open up the ability for the federal government agencies or other agencies to look at that. That we've already locked ours down to just the agencies that we choose to be able to access it. It is not being used for immigration enforcement. It does not end up using any kind of AI. It takes a picture of the back of the vehicle. So we don't get it can't be used for, you know, racial bias because you're not going to be able to see the driver. There's no listening devices. That's all it does. And the only way that the officers can access the footage is if they're basically looking and are investigating a criminal activity. You know, so like all the car breaks that are going on. You know, I've had an email back and forth with somebody from one of our, you know, neighborhoods in town today, before I came here. We've had instances where we're able to actually pinpoint who the person is. And God forbid if we ever had like an Amber Alert, it will hit on the fact that that car with that license plate that we're looking for just went by the camera, which will give us an opportunity to potentially apprehend that person and get that child back. No, and again, you're talking about us. You're talking about the Franklin Police Department, an accredited professional PD that I would hope has gained your trust through our trust building campaign, one of our accomplishments that I didn't go over with, or anything like that, that we would never allow something or do something, you know, that would jeopardize people's civil rights. Because here's the deal. If you're a criminal, then be concerned about flock cameras. If you're not a criminal, we don't give a blank on what you're doing. We have enough to do. We don't care. We're not going to be looking at the footage for any other reason than a criminal activity and trying to work a case.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hold on.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank everyone here, and thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I'm kind of scared to ask this first question, but is Ben the therapy dog still with the department?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know you mentioned his handler earlier, and...
He goes to bed at 7 o'clock.
Okay. So I'm a little worried, but I mean, I'm concerned because, you know, our budget crunch has gotten more and more severe. And if we were to lose the other two SROs, what would happen to those dogs?
Well, I mean, Ben actually lives with Jamie Maccheroni, who is a retired officer from the department, still a special with us, and a man, because he was his first trainer as pup and everything like that, and Amanda Rhea, you know, goes to the house, picks up the dog, you know, daily. Ben's getting up there, he's getting a little older, you know, he's a good-sized dog as well. And Frankie, same thing. I mean, it ended up with Dave. He's never, you know, we always supported our canines basically living with their handlers, you know, once their service was over. But Ben's he's still serving.
And Frankie?
Frankie's here.
Frankie's here. But, so I just want to point out, you know, our decisions as a council has consequences. And, you know, I just want to make sure that people realize that it's not just humans that are affected, but are canines as well.
Unfortunately, they're not in the schools as much as they used to be, and that's where I think we got our biggest bang for our buck, is having the dogs available to the schools. They go if needed. It's just, they're on patrol now.
Okay.
So they get one of the 4 sectors in town, and they're responsible for that. They don't have that ability to basically, be at the schools, and do those types of things like they used to.
Okay. I did want to follow up on staffing, and we talked a little bit about how, staffing salaries are a lot lower than other departments. How much are we spending annually on recruitment and training due to turnover from below market wages? And how does that affect public safety?
I wouldn't say that we've lost anybody. I don't believe, and I always have an exit interview with them, and I tell them when I hire them that if you're ever gonna leave, just, give me a no BS exit interview. I can't fix what I don't know is broken. And they're pretty good. So unless they're lying to me, they're not leaving because, I guess, the pay and all that. But if it continues, I've talked to some of the members of the department and this and that, they're concerned about it, and it could end up being one of those things that does end up affecting a decision to potentially go to a neighboring department that might be paying more.
And then you'd have to actually pay to train new people.
Well, we'd either get a transfer, but it's tough to get transfers when your people are leaving because the pay's not good,
Right.
and you have an antiquated facility. So now you got to put people in the academy, and I've already talked about this before. The issues related, I'd love to put people in the academy when you're at full staff. If you have one opening, you can afford to do it, because when you do decide to put that person in the academy, that slot on that schedule is open for an entire year. Between the time we end up posting it, bringing them in for interviews, choosing someone, background check, pre-employment screens, 3 to 4 months. 6-month academy, 14-week FTO, field training program. It's a year. When I take a transfer, they got 4 or 5 years on the job, maybe a little less. The whole thing is like a 3-month process, and then they're doing a 4 to 5 week FTO, and then they're in that slot. Open slot in the schedule is no longer open.
So I guess my point is that if you start cutting even further, you won't even be able to save money because you'd have to just retrain people over and over again.
I have some of the best field training officers anywhere, because they're the busiest field training officers anywhere. 44 hires in 9.5 years.
Okay.
So yes, but it's an expense. And then every time you have to grab, it's $4,000 just for initial issue. These uniforms aren't cheap.
So those were softballs. I do have a few things to build off what Michael said.
Bring them on.
Oh, you're on it, okay. Well, this is sort of tangentially related. Do you have any Stingray devices that use like cell site simulator technology in the department?
No.
Okay. And then just to build off Michael's comments, I know some of the concerns weren't necessarily about the Franklin Police. We trust the police here, you do great work, but I guess the concern is with data sharing, there's, I know you have like a radius around New England that can share with for auto-approve, but if for like a state, police officer in Alabama, we might not trust them as much as we trust the Franklin Police. So I think that's where some of the concern comes from. And I think that there was an issue with the flock contract, and specifically the concern is whether the flock contract overrides some of the policies that you have. And could you just affirm or confirm that the contract does not override any policy protections that you have at the policy level?
No, there are no conflicts with it, and a trooper in Alabama can't get our data without specifically asking us for it.
Okay.
And they'd have to probably they'd probably have to email first, maybe a phone call, one of the criminal investigators, and then we'd make a determination, for that. But they're not getting it. It's mainly just in this area, because we do work with Woonsocket and some, I can't say not out of state because there are, and there are Massachusetts, but there are some, Rhode Island communities and others that we do end up having the sharing with, because it makes the investigations more timely and efficient, that you can access their data and they can access yours.
And I guess the final thought is, I was looking through your policy manual, and I think it was like a law enforcement reason, and you did have certain exemptions for it, which I think is good, but there was no, what's the term, not reasonable cause, but reasonable suspicion standard. And I just was wondering if you could consider a stronger standard around reasonable suspicion that would allow for searches that are not on the hot list, so that you can, there's just a little bit more protection for people who, against abuse.
But they're only, it's protection of what? You don't have a right, there's no right of privacy for your license plate. It's issued by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You don't have there's been plenty of case law related to it. It's only taking a photo of the back of the car, because there might be a distinctive bumper sticker or something like that. We don't know who, we don't know who you are or who is actually even driving. We're trying to identify the vehicle involved in the case, and we don't need reasonable suspicion because you have no right of privacy in that plate. And every officer that does an investigation has to put down, when they do it, that, why they're doing it. And it's audited every 3 months by Lieutenant Zimmerman as to why they did it, how many that there were, and so forth. So, we have checks and balances galore. We've never had an issue with it. And just because the ACLU says that there's a problem, doesn't mean that there's a problem.
So even though it's not a constitutional right at the state or federal level, that doesn't mean something that the town could choose to implement as a safeguard, correct?
And if the town council for the first time ever is going to basically try to implement policy at the police department, we could talk offline.
Thank you. And with that, I'll appreciate your time, and I'll yield the floor.
Okay.
I'm gonna be quick, because I don't have really a lot to ask. I met with you and I've seen the station, and it was eye-opening. Thank you all for being here late at night with us. It's a party. Just really want to ask a question on clarifying something and I don't remember the slide, so, but when you were talking about the median, and you were talking about, you had those towns,
Yes.
that budget for those towns, just to clarify what I think you said, does not include, their budgets does not include the same money that you get from capital. In other words, they're getting money from their capital budget for the cruisers and stuff. That is literally just their operating budget, as your budget is here.
Correct. It's just their salaries and expenses. If it included like cruisers in their budget so that it was much higher than what it would have been. If it had cruisers in it, if it had animal control, if it had dispatchers, if it had a harbor master, if it had anything that was separate and not including our budget, apples to apples, and I found it, I ripped it out.
Okay.
So when you look at their budget, it would, if they had any of those, their police budget would actually be higher than what it is right there, because I already eliminated the things that we don't have in our budget, so it's a better apples to apples comparison.
Okay, no, the reason I ask is because I had done some math and I was trying to do stuff, and I'm like, but if we add in the capital to yours, you're closer to that median, but you're not, because the capital, that same amount isn't in those numbers for those towns.
But adding the capital does nothing other than it's a shell game and you're moving it from one another.
No,
You
I
want the
know.
capital so that the council can do some other things that are more capital improvement wise, but it still means I'm getting the same money.
No, I know. I wasn't doing it I wasn't doing the math that way to say that you're getting what you need. I get your budget, I get what you need, I get what the SROs and all of that. I was just trying to do comparing, but my comparison wasn't correct. If those towns' budgets that you have up there wasn't including that money either.
No, if it had it in there, I pulled it out.
Okay, so that's all I was just trying to clarify.
Okay.
And I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chief. Thank you to everybody here. Men and women, you're all fantastic, and we're lucky to have you. You make us proud every day. My only question, and I know it's an antiquated term, Chief, meter maid, because I don't really know what we would call somebody that did that today. But is there any benefit to adding that position to the budget to try to bring in, not just bring revenue in from things that, the public aren't taking consideration for, but also would it help you guys, with actually enforcing the laws? Because you've said to us a couple of times over the years, like my guys don't have time to go write tickets to people that are not following signage downtown. And I think the public has heard that, and I think some of the frustrations that we sometimes hear are like, well, why do I bother abiding by the sign? Nobody's coming to give me a ticket anyway. So I just wonder, it's the one thing that hasn't been covered, and I just wonder if there's any value to that.
So parking control officer is what we
Okay.
had for, for numbers of years, the PCO as we called it, and that's what they did. They basically, they collected the coins out of the meters.
Yep.
They don't have any meters anymore.
Yep.
And then they would do some parking enforcement. I took the PCO, added it to the savings that we had going from one firing range that required frangible ammo to another firing range we're currently at that do not require frangible ammo, put them together, and we're able to hire a police officer. That's why it's no longer with the department. Because I'd rather have the sworn police officer who can write tickets for parking enforcement and other things, but can do everything that a police officer can do, and a parking control officer can't do any of that except for just parking.
Yeah, and I want you to have the sworn officers too. I'm just wondering if there'd be any benefit to
I would say that, yes.
putting somebody in that position to enforce some of these signs and bylaws that we have and bring in some revenue.
Yeah, I would say probably yes, it would help, but I need a guarantee that if you're gonna give me the parking control officer, I'm not gonna lose any of the sworn officers. You wanna throw more money at us, please do, but that's all I'm saying is, that's why we did what we did. They do enforce the parking, and there's only one place in town that has it. There really isn't any place, in my opinion, that has a significant parking issue. I know that there's this whole thing with West Street, it's been the bane of my existence from the time I've been the police chief. There is 92 spots in that whole neighborhood, and I bet you 10 of them at the most are taken at any time. And it happens to be some of the kids that are just, whatever, lazy, didn't want to pay the fee to Dean, whatever it might be. But are they really causing a ton of problems? I don't think so. And it is violating, and we try to do it, I'm guaranteeing you, and they do parking enforcement. It's just, sometimes there are more important things that come up, and it's only between those times that they can basically do it. They have to find the car there, they have to come back and make sure it's still there 2 hours later.
Yeah. I asked the fire department this, but how's morale?
Thumbs down.
Like I said, I think it's not terrible, it's not bad, but I don't think anybody was excited about the fact that we had to cut 2 police officers to see, those are, the community service office positions are what we call, like specialty positions. So people aspire to specialty positions, rank, et cetera. So when it gets reduced, it's really tough for the individuals that had to be transferred out, but it also reduces the prospects for the rest of the officers. And we have a lot of talented people, and they know it, and it's very competitive. So they're not there. And then when you add in the fact that it doesn't look like we're getting a new police station anytime soon because of the realization of we need the structural budget deficit fixed first, and then you add to the fact that they're quite aware of where they are when it comes to pay scales. And they realize the town's in a tough situation, financially. It weighs on you after a while. I haven't had anybody come to talk, people only come to talk to me for 2 reasons. They're either coming to tell me they've done something wrong and they need help, or they're coming to tell me I'm leaving. So when they say, hey, you got a minute, chief? I know exactly what it is. Because my people aren't doing anything wrong and they're not getting themselves into trouble. And it's, I gotta talk to you about something. There are 2 officers that potentially may end up, if they're given the opportunity, go to the Massachusetts State Police class in June.
There you go.
If they get the opportunity, they go. I mean, it's a 2,500 person department versus what we are. I don't know if the MSP is basically paying better than what we're paying. But, again, they'll give me that exit interview when they go, and I don't have an idea. But still, they're, we're losing 2 good people potentially.
At some point, Chief, the difficult conversation's gonna have to come where we're gonna need some of the union leadership of the police department to sit down and get behind an override. It didn't happen last time. So we're gonna need that if we're going to have these critical conversations. We've been able to have it with schools, we've been able to have it with fire. We're just gonna need that to happen. If that's the goal. If the goal is, we're okay with the operational problems, Ted, we'd much rather have a police station, okay, then we have to put all our eggs in that basket and try to convince the community that the police station is the way to go. You know as well as anybody, we're not going to get both. But right now, we seem to have a little bit of conflict, and we need to try to get everybody on the same page. So, thank you.
Welcome.
Gene?
Yep, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Hey, Chief, thanks very much for coming out tonight and doing the presentation. I don't have question, I just have a comment. I've lived here for 27 years. I've had interactions with the police over that. Try to keep my interactions down. Most of them are, traffic related. And same with my kids. And I would just say that in my experience here for 27 years, that this is one of the most professional, well-run, just nicest people that I've ever, encountered in the police. So I just want to, give our police department a lot of credit for that. And same for my kids, and some of you guys have coached over the years, so we've had that experience as well. And just a credit to the community. And I would just say, in my opinion, that if we have such a great police force and the kind of people that we have, that we should look to not pay you as one of the lowest police forces in the Commonwealth. So I would definitely like to see that change, and I think the people of Franklin should want to see that change. And that's all I have tonight. So back to you guys.
Thanks, Gene.
Thanks.
So, yeah, I'm definitely in support with, just like Councilor LeBlanc, with bringing the two officers back. I obviously, stand behind that, but, and like Gene, my kids were all coached by Franklin PD back. I actually coached with Jason, I actually coached with Jack. So, I mean, it was a great community, but as far as, now I'm gonna be a union guy, but I mean, as far as, being paid low, you can sit here and say morale's good, but they're gonna go, they're young kids. Well, Eric, you're here, you're not going anywhere. Joe, you're not going. Jason, you're not going nowhere. Okay? But if you guys were young, I really don't blame you for leaving. I mean, you gotta better your life for your family and your kids. So you can't, you say the same thing. There's nothing you can do about it. I know my kids' age. I know a couple kids that are in Attleboro, a couple kids in Medway, a couple kids in Norfolk. They're all Franklin kids, but then they can't afford to come back here. So that, I would love to see that change too myself. But you guys do a great job, obviously. I love yous all, so, just keep doing your good work with what you can do. Thanks, Chief.
Very welcome, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick, I know the chief gave accolades to all the department members a minute ago, and that's true. And he's gonna kill me for saying it, but for those who don't know, Jamie nominated Chief Lynch for the 98.5 Hometown Hero Award. He's gonna be receiving that award tomorrow at noon, so I just want to congratulate him.
We need that ambulance for Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Legislation.
Hopefully I'm not promoted tomorrow.
Should be an easy one.
All right. We gotta go, boys.
Just one.
See you guys.
Let's go. 14 minutes.
All right, moving on. Legislation for action. Resolution 26-20, acceptance of gifts. Senior Center, $321. Veteran Service Department, $637.78. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 26-20, acceptance of gifts to the Franklin Senior Center and Franklin Veteran Service Department. Whereas the Franklin Senior Center and Veteran Service Department have received generous donations in the total amount of $958.78 to be used at the discretion of each department as follows. Donation summary. Franklin Senior Center, $321. Donations to be used at the discretion of the Senior Center through the Council on Aging Gift Fund to provide services and programs to senior citizens in the Franklin community. Franklin Veteran Services Department, $637.78. Donations to be used at the discretion of the Veteran Services Department through the Franklin Municipal Veterans Assistance Fund in support of local veterans and their families. List of all donors is included in tonight's council agenda packet. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Franklin, on behalf of the Franklin Senior Center and Franklin Veteran Services Department, gratefully accepts these generous donations to be used at the discretion of each department for the purposes noted above. This resolution shall become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Guys heard the
A motion to approve Resolution 2620.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you to all the donors.
Roll call vote.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call for Resolution 26-20, acceptance of gifts. Councilor Ojukwu?
Yes.
Councilor Morangelo?
Yes.
Councilor Malloy?
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes.
Councilor Griffith?
Yes.
Councilor Callaway Tripp?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes. Motion
9-0.
passed. Thank you. Moving on. Future agenda items. Councilor Malloy, go right down.
None for tonight, sir. All set.
Councilor Ojukwu?
None.
Nothing for me?
Nothing.
Just the ones that I have previously mentioned in previous meetings.
Thank you, Council.
Nothing.
Nothing at this time, sir.
Gene?
Nothing.
Me, nothing. So, we have no executive session, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Oh.
Everything has to be a roll call.
To adjourn?
To adjourn.
Okay. Councilor Ojukwu?
Yes.
Councilor Morangelo?
Yes.
Councilor Malloy?
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes.
Councilor Griffith?
Yes.
Councilor Callaway Tripp?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Jean,
Yes.
can we go home, please? Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor
Yes.
Cork, okay. Adjourned.
Night, everybody.
Recording stopped.
Jamie's not going to be around here.